All right, and we are live. Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome to the Token Metrics Roundtable. Back as usual, Sunday, 6 p.m. Eastern Time, being joined by Hey Matty once again. Welcome back, Matty. How are you?
Hi, thanks for having me in.
Awesome, awesome. And then Bill. Hey, Bill, how's it going?
Ian, how you doing? Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, happy Sunday. And Bitcoin, oh man, Bitcoin is finally waking up. Ethereum as well. Going to be a very interesting show. Let's kick things off with shout outs. Shout out to Dragon Balls Crypto. What's up? First person on the stream. Shout out to State View Capital. Hey, bud, how's it going? Crypto Gamer, what's up? Oh man, this name I'm going to butcher. Uche. I'll just call you Uche. What's up? Seek, what's up? Corey on Twitter. Kana on YouTube. Andreas on Facebook. Hello from Norway. How are you? God Berthy. We missed you too as well. Yusuf, Moroccan Gunner. Welcome, welcome. All right, so this is going out to YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope. Also gets turned into a podcast. Be sure to subscribe. Go to tokenmetrics.com/podcast to get all this content on the go, whether you're walking, on a train, driving. You can have crypto news and just analysis from myself, Bill, Hey Matty, and everybody we have on the show. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so we have quite the show in store today. Let me pull up my presentation here. Just give me a second here. I want to get the Mentimeter code for everybody. Okay. That's not what I want. Okay, there we go. So today's show, we'll cover state of the markets, everything you need to know about crypto prior to the US election. We'll cover COVID, we'll cover Bitcoin, Ethereum, everything you have. Go to menti.com to submit your questions. That's MENTI.com. Use the code 772522. That's 772522 to submit your questions. So I think without further ado, let's kick straight into it. So Bill, give us an update on the market.
All right. All right. Now let's start with Bitcoin. What's Bitcoin been doing? Well, it's been going from bottom left to top right. It occasionally scares everyone by breaking a trend line. And this is starting to look less like a cryptocurrency and more like a stock in the Dow Jones Industrial Average. And that's probably because corporations are slowly buying it in size, okay, which is limiting downside volatility. Now with Bitcoin, you've probably seen and heard all the charts. You know, there's no resistance above 14K. You know, it's beyond all the high volume zones. But let me try to tell you something about Bitcoin and then maybe talk about crypto in general versus other asset classes. So this table starts with the 2017 high, and then it moves to the current price. And then the column on the far right is the percentage up and down versus where it was at the high in 2017. So we begin with Tesla. Okay. I guess Tesla's got the cars that can drive themselves coming out any day now because their high was 78 and their current price is 388 for a 400% return. My friend QQQ, that's your FANG stocks or NASDAQ 100, is 70% on the far right, above its 2017 high, and Ethereum in black, a couple lines down, is 72% below its 2017 high. So the tech of the past, you know, the Facebook account you don't use, okay, versus Ethereum, which one would you like? And then, of course, there's the idea of gold and Bitcoin, right? Everyone likes, that's like the new thing, right? This is how the legacy group is stomaching what's going on in Bitcoin by saying it's kind of like the new digital gold. I'm like, okay. Well, gold is 38% above its 2017 high, if you look in yellow, and Bitcoin is 31% below. So that kind of has to be addressed, right? Either Bitcoin's got to go way up or, something else has to happen. And then finally, when the equities world comes to Coinbase, and they are coming, okay, they're going to see Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Dash, stuff that you wouldn't even touch, right? It's not even your dad's crypto. Like, no one would go near it. But it's like 90% below where it was in 2017. It also has psychologically appealing prices, right? So if they have Bitcoin sticker shock, they move over there, okay? How do I pay my bills, right? COVID. I mean, it just keeps getting worse, right? Europe is unbelievable. And in the United States, we're looking at eviction rates. We're looking at evicting as many people in like 2 months as we did during the entire financial crisis. It's coming up. And a gallon of milk's up 40%. So if somebody says, here's a rising asset that you can buy things, you can get more dollars to buy things with this Coinbase debit card. This is the new sort of decentralized finance where cryptocurrency, decentralized cryptocurrency, becomes something you can use at the grocery store in the middle of a rally where corporates are buying it. Now, let's go to what no one's looking at, which is Ethereum. No one as in, like, say, small retail audience. Because Ethereum hasn't done much, right? All the action and all the talk has been about Bitcoin. Well, it just so happens that the Ethereum Bitcoin cross rate just hit a support point. It could be making, emphasis could, it could be making a head and shoulders bottom. Typically, that right shoulder is pretty violent in terms of the downturn. Okay. And, some homemade, lumpy gravy, Elliott wave, and some stochastics would seem to indicate that Ethereum is going to catch up to Bitcoin. Okay. That the correction of the DeFi rally on the left from July to September, right, where ETH, smoked higher, all we've done is just go through a corrective phase, right? So this gigantic Bitcoin rally has just been a correction in Ethereum versus Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin dominance. Okay, I'm not hating on Bitcoin. I don't think really Bitcoin's going lower unless there's a calamity on November 3rd, but Bitcoin dominance is at some measure of resistance, right? This was a prior breakdown point and a prior takeoff point. So there's a case for ETH. Now, one final note on this. It looks like Cointelegraph is reporting that option open interest for December in Ethereum is extremely high. This is because somebody bought a lot of call options, which means there's a big bullish bet for Ethereum to go above 400. Now, I know the contrarian in you is like, well, if they bet big up, it goes down. Maybe. Something else could happen because remember, those call buyers, right? Someone is short those calls. And even if it's a volatility player to spare you the finance lesson, if Ethereum ever accelerated above 400, the people who sold those calls are going to have to buy more and more ETH. So there is a catalyst for ETH if it can get going. All right. It doesn't have to be just DeFi. Okay. Now, on a side note, things like Bitcoin Cash, people are like, what? Yes, Bitcoin Cash is starting to break through a diagonal resistance point. People when they come to Coinbase, they're going to see like big Bitcoin as like Berkshire Hathaway A with some huge dollar price. And then they're going to see things with smaller dollar prices. And there's a fork coming here. So this is really interesting to me. Okay. Alt market cap, okay, is at a diagonal point here with these lines drawn off the top in 2018. Zooming in, it looks like alt market cap is actually holding its ground. Yes, I know the small alts. It's just that's, you know, people have de-risks and they've been wrecked. But overall, alt market cap is holding. Now, in case you're wondering if, you know, the election is going to create some sort of huge decline in Bitcoin, here's what I would say. I think if there was going to be a big drop in Bitcoin, it would be already reflected in the stock of Galaxy Digital, which is Mike Novogratz's hedge fund, right? And that stock, it trades in Canada, seems to be stable for the moment, right? So we can continue to talk about the election. I don't want to over monologue here, but that's sort of my market overview. You know, Bitcoin, okay. You know, Ethereum, big upside, and don't underestimate what your parents' crypto can do off Coinbase.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill. That was definitely quite the analysis. Let's check in here. If you have any questions, be sure to go to minty.com and put in your questions, or just post the questions down in the comments. Let's go to Matty. What's your take on the market right now?
Sure. Yeah, let me share my screen. All right, can you see it?
Yes.
Yeah, so that was some great analysis, Bill. I would just like to add on a few things to some of the points that you had mentioned. So I like to measure, you know, ETH versus Bitcoin in terms of USD from low to high. And I view Ethereum as kind of this traction gaining asset that's slowly chipping away at Bitcoin in terms of ROI. If you look at 2014 and 2017, especially in 2017, 2018, no doubt Ethereum was the big leader there. If you were in the ICO boom from late 2016 leading into 2017, you made a ton more money. And that really drives home a lot of my portfolio analysis of where I was looking at then and where I'm heading to now. Even if you look at from the low to the high currently on Bitcoin, I think Ethereum is outpacing in terms of US dollar percentage about 2 to 1. So, you know, I think that until Bitcoin finds its true watershed moment, which is it's people accepting it for what it is, right? We talk about spending it, and I look at it from the perspective, and Ian knows this because we talked about it during the 2019 consensus meetup. You know, it's a liquid gold. It's liquid gold that essentially is immutable. You can't stop it. It's decentralized. It has a lot of these amazing qualities. And if you look back to the 1970s, when the dollar was backed by gold, backed by a sound, stable asset that had intrinsic value, you know, one day we're going to have a stable coin that can be backed by Bitcoin. And when people pick up that level of adoption, it's going to be much better as something to spend on, because I think people will get confused in terms of spending the Bitcoin directly for assets, or people just won't want to. They'd rather be able to have their paycheck in a stable coin that's backed by Bitcoin or backed by some sort of stable value. I think Bitcoin presents amazing opportunities for that to happen. So I think when that happens, you'll see a massive explosion in terms of Bitcoin's valuation in comparison to Ethereum. But right now, Ethereum is a massive ecosystem that, from a technology perspective, developers want to build on. That's the narrative that we're going to be seeing over the next 4-year cycle for Ethereum. And until Bitcoin picks up its own narrative and flies with that, the valuations are going to tighten, right? I think it's now 2 to 1 in terms of market cap. Last I checked on CoinMarketCap. I think that when you look at the Coinbase card, this is amazing news, because when PayPal news broke, I thought that this was the end of Coinbase. But in reality, we found out that PayPal is a little timid in the sense that they're not going to allow Bitcoin coming on and off the platform. So when I saw the Coinbase card come out, I said, well, you know what? Not only can I buy all these additional coins that I have access to on Coinbase, but Coinbase actually lets me take money on and off the platform, how banking will most likely be in a decade from now. So sure, PayPal will most likely catch up, just like you can withdraw and deposit Bitcoin on Cash App at the moment, but just with severe limitations. So Coinbase is really serving not only the institutional side for that, but it's also serving just anyone who generally wants to put more than just a few $1,000s per week. If you found crypto, you want to put a big chunk of, let's say, 5 to 10,000. Coinbase allows you to do that, and now you have a credit card. And also, Coinbase is really pushing. It's a centralized version of it, but pushing their own stable coin. PayPal doesn't have this; they just have a USD to Bitcoin conversion. The way I see PayPal kind of setting themselves up at the moment is like almost like TD Ameritrade, where you can come on, buy Bitcoin, and hold it there, but not my keys, not my crypto. So let me just kind of push forward with a little bit of TA. I think anyone who doesn't think that we're in a crypto bull market is fooling themselves. Very clear break of the daily consolidation. As people who follow my TA for some years now, I'm very big on symbolism in terms of daily structures. So you can just see a very clear ascending triangle. There was a clear triangle here as well with the breakdown. We tested this 2 times and then eventually consolidated. And then this is where you had your macro long happening. So we've now not only broke that macro long by a mile, we've also broken this previous daily structure as well. And now we're in this bullish accumulation to the upside. So in terms of resistance, in terms of Bitcoin, who knows where this can really go? You could be looking at potentially 20,000 because this is a very strong rally on decent volume. But the real play for me, as Bill alluded to, is definitely Ethereum. And you can just see it again in the daily structures. With Ethereum, you have your same structure here because the DeFi movement was just blowing up in August and September. And I'll touch on that just briefly in a second. But since then, Ethereum has kind of slowed down. This is partly because of the delay in the Ethereum 2.0 first ZK rollup type of stuff. There's a bunch of things that they were supposed to roll out that got delayed for another 2 weeks. I'm sure people in that ecosystem are getting tired of waiting, even though it's going to be here eventually, and then people are going to miss the boat. But you can see here in that same daily accumulation in terms of patterns, we had the same pattern here on Ethereum. The only difference is that we have not broken the previous daily structure. Excuse me. Instead, you have an amazing opportunity to test the daily structure coming down to this nice little support pocket. Ethereum, for me, in terms of macro trend, is just looking at the long signal with a little bit of fake out, but the TSI is confirming. So if we can get some nice upside above 400, Ethereum can really take off with the same opportunity that you're not getting on Bitcoin. The reason you're not getting that opportunity on Bitcoin is because it's in its own market structure. So Ethereum has to catch up, which is opportunity. What I really like to see though is things like Chainlink, because I think when we talk about before, I said I would mention what happened in August and September. There was a ton of on-chain activity. There was a ton of like excitement coming out. You saw in our last roundtable when I was speaking, we were talking about how small centralized exchanges are becoming. We now see CZ coming out and tweeting that centralized exchanges days are numbered. But here's the thing that CZ doesn't tell you is that if centralized exchanges are numbered, and I slightly disagree with them, I think they have their place in the market. But if we think AMMs are going to rule the world and that there's a decentralized wave coming for the next 4 years and that some of these external centralized exchanges for altcoins are numbered, Binance is trying to position itself along with FTX with Solana to provide competition to the AMM, and doing so in a way that's perhaps really unethical, because you're looking at, SushiSwap had come out, tried to steal 2/3 of the liquidity from Uniswap. They failed at that. It was successful, but they failed in terms of having any sort of market adoption. Retail still continues to use Uniswap, even with the poor UI functionality. They're willing to accept those early day pain points, even with others trying to come out with alternatives. And you're seeing, projects are still listing on Uniswap as well. And their liquidity mining is just bar none now. So, sorry. So the thing is that decentralized exchanges are not making an impact Binance is trying to flaunt itself with its Binance chain, which has few, if minimal, use cases that Ethereum can't do. And the greatest part is that all the action's happening over on Ethereum, the compounds, the Aves, all these different lending platforms, the YFIs, right? Everyone's building on Ethereum. This is where the excitement is. Why would I want to go off chain? It's like me choosing Neo in a niche market back in 2017. So I just don't see that level of adoption. So when I look at Chainlink, there's really amazing market structure in terms of daily pullbacks to the 618 for opportunities to come into it. And we can see here, just like Ethereum on its own daily structure, an amazing buy opportunity for Chainlink. And when I look at my overall portfolio structure, I say, hey, where am I going with this? I obviously say the first thing is that I'm not a financial advisor, but that's not going to stop us from talking about where I'm heading in terms of portfolio management. In the 2017 market, most people who followed some of my early stage videos saw that I was pumping almost 70% of my portfolio into Ethereum. This is partially because a lot of my Ethereum was being used for ICO raises, while nowadays people are still more likely to maybe choose USDT because they realized that they didn't actually need to use Ethereum, and a lot of people got bogged down. Now, if you're looking towards the future, I do expect some raises to start popping back up in Ethereum because they can hold that Ethereum for the long term. But try and only invest into USDT plays as the market progresses towards a later stage. I did want to talk about that that on-chain usage. Right now, what we're seeing in terms of the TA is a lot of blue chip coins, including these coins like BCH, which was mentioned, Dot, Link, etc. These blue chip coins are doing really well. But if you look at maybe something like Band, it's at an all-time low right now. A lot of alts that are not getting as much love because there's been a lot of things going on in the altcoin market specifically. We're talking about the high volatility altcoin market. So a lot of projects that are coming out, and some of the projects that I had some money in myself, aren't doing too well. And the reason being is because there's been a lot of saturation in the market. There's been a lot of rugs with these on-chain listings, with initial DEX offerings or whatever you want to call them. So a lot of the appetite that was there in August and September, not to mention the instability in the market, is not there as much. So who are really the buyers? Well, the buyers are now these kind of pre-sale groups who were kind of fueling some of the late stage ICO stuff, and we're getting wrecked in maybe early 2018. Kind of very similar mentality right now. I think it's more of a lull, right? When you look at a 2017 ICO market, you saw these waves of projects coming out. So a bunch of people came up with a lot of great ideas on selling points to people in order to make ROI. They brought out a bunch of projects. Most of them failed, but a few keepers were kept, right? Now you're in a lull because now the next wave of projects are figuring out their ideation. Takes about a month to get to market right now for some more real projects. So that lull that's happening is just people kind of recreating the wheel of projects that did well in that previous first wave with a couple different like twists here and there. Let's tweak this, let's tweak that, and really the market's just been getting fueled by core clones left and right. So that has really disenfranchised a lot of different people from the retail side. So they're kind of moving their capital to the sideline. And the first signs that you see when they move their capital to the sideline on the high risk is that some of the more high volatile plays start to suffer. So Band Protocol, for example, if you look at the TA, is like at a pretty hard low after a big sell-off. It's not showing the same characteristics that you're seeing with blue chip altcoins such as Polkadot and Chainlink, where it started to now pull itself up into a more bullish pattern. When you look at something like Band, you can see that instead of that pullback happening, we're now on the 233 daily EMA, right? So it's just been nonstop selling. There's no bull pressure in sight. What I think happens in the next 2 weeks is Ethereum 2.0 is that the cream rises to the top, and we start seeing some of these higher volatility plays start to get some pokes over some decent levels, such as for Band would be the $6 to $8 range. We start getting up there, we can start testing some of these pullbacks and get some nice positions on some of our spots. So for now, I'm kind of just bleeding money in terms of portfolio positioning. This is the first time since liquidating my stack between 385 and 405, what I was on the show last time. So now I'm starting to move USDT back into the market by buying big parts of Ethereum, Link, Dot. Bitcoin Cash I love as a hedge to Bitcoin. If you're going to have any sizable position in your portfolio for Bitcoin, you almost have to have Bitcoin Cash. I think the narrative, Bill, that you brought up in terms of the fork is an excellent one I think I might lower my exposure to BNB. I think they'll always be relevant in branding terms, but I really don't want to be associated with any sort of centralized exchanges. And I think that their vertical is questionable, but I mean, Neo did very good in the 2017 market, trying to ride off Ethereum's coattail. But notice some things that aren't on here, such as Litecoin. I'm sure there's a few others. I'm really trying to stick to, in 2020, use case building and on-chain dynamics. So a lot of the things that come into the higher risk portfolio are things like Maker, Compound, Uniswap, Aave, YFI. I have Hex on here because they're breaking out, and I'm really big on three different things. I love names, and I love development, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, if a project name has really amazing branding for marketing, I love it. If the founder happens to have an already existing presence in terms of name, I love it. And if they're building something, it doesn't have to work, I love it, because people will still buy into it. So Hex kind of has all of those three qualities for something that's unique to make this list. Not to promote that here, because I know that has a large stigma in the ecosystem, but it's
not here
to,
though.
yeah.
I mean, because
I mean, if you look
our
at
stance on it is that it's great for making money. Obviously, we would not hold it for a long time, but as a trade, if you know what you're getting into, make that money.
Yeah, for sure. Like it's disingenuous to put Hex alongside of what could be, historic platforms, historic projects, right? You're seeing stuff like here, like Synthetics, Wi-Fi, Aave, Uni, Compound, Maker. These are groundbreaking technologies in their own right in early stages. Even Kusama is going to ride off of Polkadot's coattails. We're gonna talk later about different types of oracles and whether or not Chainlink is threatened by decentralized oracles such as Band. Seller actually has a great APY with actual insurance, right? This is these are some of the higher risk plays that some of my community members like to talk about a lot. These are names that you're hearing in circles, and that drives branding and adoption in its own right. Ren, Ocean, RSR, ZRX, right? ZRX will probably never go away either, though it's become diluted in an expanding DEX market with AMM. So it is a little disingenuous to put Hex's name up here, but it seems really early days when you see this massive breakout happening in Hex. And obviously would love to accumulate it back here. So I'm not coming in all the way up here, but I will follow it from a TA perspective, because names and building, right? So that stuff has relevance in the market. So for me, again, ETH is king, super excited for Polkadot, and anything on chain is really going to drive the next 2 to 4 years. I'm sure there'll be some other markets that establish themselves, but most of the things in 2017 that don't have an on-chain presence now is going to die off quicker than it ever has before. So that would be my hot take for the day.
All right, awesome analysis. So quick question, could you kind of go through how you allocated the portfolio in terms of the percentages?
Yeah, so I think back in 2017, 2018, the big thing was, have 70 to 80% of your portfolio in Bitcoin, because that's the least volatile. I went the other way, which is that I was trying to bring on the most volatility with also stability, right? So Ethereum really brought that to the table. And I happened to just be using it to move it into a lot of ICO plays. For me, I'm in my early 30s, and though I'm looking for a little bit more stability in terms of I have a kid, I have a house, etc., I still want all that risk. I live my life that there's going to be no government assistance for me when I get to 60, 65, right? I live my life where we're going to have to deal with dollar inflation over the next 30 years. So for me, like anyone who's under the age of 40 should just be taking as much upside as they possibly can, maybe even raising that number as the next decade or two goes on. Let's say 50, right? It used to be by the time you're 40 or even younger that you should be putting yourself into stable assets. I think my parents' generation is the dividends generation. So they put themselves into stocks with like 5% or less returns. Stable income and getting residual returns. I think that's a bubble now. I'm not looking for the stock market. I kind of put myself into the lower demographic of age where it's not appealing to me. I want massive upside. It's hard for me to see people getting massive APY on food coins, but people want me to go invest in something in the stock market that could barely make relevant returns, right? So when I'm looking at this, I want a lot of exposure into high risk volatility while still maintaining a somewhat stable base in what would be high risk to people who aren't me, right? If I told people that I had a sizable position, let's say like you're only supposed to have 5% in crypto. Well, I'm cool with having 25% in crypto, right? Because I don't view crypto as a volatile asset anymore. And I think that people are lagging behind the times on that. We could have black swan events. We have had black swan events that we survived. Mt. Gox should have killed Bitcoin. The parity hack should have killed Ethereum. We're a very resilient community, and I don't think that we need to label ourselves as high risk or bust. And at the same time, if I busted 25% of my portfolio, I'm still positioned well to handle that because it's high risk, high reward, but also with passive income, right? You should, like in anything that you're doing, you should be trying to identify a passive income stream to be able to pay for your bills, and everything else should just be high risk, pump up assets, lower liability, right? That's like the mantra that you should be speaking to yourself every single day. Set up passive income, increase asset, lower liability. And then from there, when you make a few $1 million and you have too much money to spend it, start putting it into more stable income streams such as real estate, etc.
All right. Awesome. Okay, so let me also share my analysis. Hopefully I'll make it brief. Okay, so let's start things off by going to token metrics. So on the last live stream, we mentioned we were very bullish on Bitcoin all the way up until the 3rd of November. And in a way, it's basically everything that's happening right now has been textbook. Bitcoin has done very well. If we pull up Bitcoin here, going to the AI price predictions. So yeah, so basically if you're in Bitcoin and you're planning to trade it by Wednesday of this coming week, probably good time to take profits if you're up big on Bitcoin, or maybe even go to the sidelines. Now, this is just purely as a short-term trade because the belief is that post-election, anything could happen. And that lack of clarity is not something to risk your capital on, right? So if you're trading Bitcoin, we think the models have been pretty much textbook, right? So we would still do it. Actually, if anything, would likely take profits probably a day or two earlier. So probably today or tomorrow, just to be sure, right? But for anybody out there who's made money on Bitcoin, that's good. Now, one interesting perspective is I think the fundamentals of crypto are totally changing, right? It seems like almost every single week we're getting all these big events happening. And today, basically, Christine Lagarde, not sure if that's how it's pronounced, but basically the EU is now also going to prepare to issue a digital euro, right? So here, let me play this. Let me make sure sound is on.
We are still in the review and consideration stage, but we've just launched a public consultation so that consumers and Europeans can actually express their preference and tell us whether they would be happy to use a digital euro just in the way they use a euro coin or a euro banknote, knowing that it is central bank money that is available and that they can rely upon.
Yeah, so I think that is very huge for the space because the EU, the Federal Reserve Bank, they'll become the biggest marketing arms for Bitcoin and for crypto. Because once people use these centralized cryptocurrencies, essentially, I mean, it's just natural and organic for them to want to see what else is out there. And with all these governments spending money towards educating the masses, I mean, this is huge for crypto, right? So very bullish on crypto, even more bullish on Ethereum as well, right? So, I mean, basically all the years we've been waiting for crypto to pump is finally here. And then if we go to our quant grade, so apologies, there has been a delay in launching the quant grade, but the quant grade is taking a very interesting take on this. So Hey Matty mentioned he's very bullish on Hex. We had Richard on the call last week, and the quant grade, which is the new grading system we plan to launch, hopefully by November. I would say probably the next week or two. But right now, the top 10 coins he likes, based on taking 54 quantitative data points. For example, if we go let me show you how the coin grade works. So let's take Ethereum, for example. So these are data points that quants use. Just go here to performance metrics. So we're taking all these different data points, such as the return, Sharpe ratio, max drawdown, all these data points, put it into an AI, and we have it automatically go through and find what coins are good investments in the next month or so, right? So think of it as a way to find hidden gems very quickly, as kind of like a coin scanner using AI, right? So the top coin it has right now is Hex, followed by DAI, Bitcoin, Stasis, which is actually a cryptocurrency pegged to the euro that I had no idea about. But basically, it's taking most of the portfolio in stablecoins and some exposure to Bitcoin and Ethereum, and basically Hex, Chainlink, Millen Protocol, Elrond, Decred, Litecoin, Helium, and Maker, right? So I find this to be very, very, very interesting that, I mean, it has Hex as the #1 trade for the next few weeks to a month, right? And I think this is one of the reasons why, because yes, there's lots of controversy around Hex, right? And for the record, I think fundamentals for Hex are horrible. I think it's a bad project. But however, if you're trading and the TA, right? If Hey Matty says the TA is bullish, if our quant AI says this is the best bullish trade, because if we go here to Hex, just taking a look at their chart, now I see why there's so much mania on Twitter around Hex, right? It's basically been pumping. It went from 0.0007 to 0.014, and the trading volume liquidity is mainly on Uniswap, over 7 million. Right, so it's definitely pretty liquid.
He's done a good job of kind of flushing out. I remember when there was like no liquidity on this coin. He's done a pretty good job of getting all these guys on board. But just kind of ask yourself, how many people do you know that use EOS? Ask yourself that. Ask yourself that question, and then tell me where value comes in when it comes to crypto. It's a highly speculative space, and there's a fine line between evangelizing a project and making money. And I think that's what I love about the young 2020, I call them the degen crowd, right? Is that the 2017 crowd was kind of like, and in their own right, accurate on this, that a lot of the projects that they were buying into in 2017 were kind of like, oh, we're selling you the world. We can change the world. We can do all these things. And everyone was like, oh yeah, I'll put my money into that, and these like massive overvaluations. And then everyone got wrecked, and then they came back and was like, well, we want to sue you because you didn't change the world, right? Or we want our money back, and there was someone to hold accountable. In the 2020 market, everyone who's young is like, yeah, we're just putting money into whatever shakes its leg at us, and we know that they're not here to change the world. We know that most of them are vaporware, but there will be some big winners, so we don't care, right? And it's almost like, I don't want to go as far to say that people are taking financial responsibility, because God forbid, but it is a big paradigm shift between 2017 and now, which I think is really, really driving that understanding.
Yeah. I mean, I agree as well, and I think that's what happens when people are in the space for some time, right? Because the people who are calling Hex a scam, right, whether you think it is or not, are not people who are professional traders or investors, right? So I think, if anything, listen to the people who are actually making money, right? Because that's how you make money. Because here, let me pull up even our price prediction on Hex, because I know people will be asking about this. Right, so this is what the AI is saying. So pretty much it thinks Hex could peak up until 0.017, right? So 1.7 cents is pretty much the peak. So if you're trading this, I think anywhere around here is probably a good time to take profit, right? And for the record, once again, fundamentals on Hex as a project, I don't think it's a good project. But if you got free Hex through the basically airdrop, or if you're trading it, I mean, don't fall in love with it. Understand that, hey, who knows, maybe in a year it ends up going to zero, right? But while you can make money as a trader, right? Make money, right? Bill, any comments to add to any of that?
Sure. So if you look at Matty's portfolio, right? It brings forth an idea that's almost crazy, which is what happens if we don't know who the president of the United States is for 2 months? And, you know, you've got man versus government versus virus over in Europe. What happens? Who would possibly be expecting an alt season to kick off during that 2-month time period? Because we had one in July and August. And then, you know, if you look at his portfolio, you know, he's essentially got 2% added to a lot of the coins that, you know, they had their moments where they really got everyone's attention for a reason, right? Now, it may not be a change the world reason, as he said, but I looked at the portfolio and I'm like, wow, you know, that looks and smells like alt season. And can you imagine, you know, can you imagine the Fed? Like, here's how it happens, right? So, you know, we went through the crypto analysis. Now here's a macro idea. Whoever comes in, U.S. credibility is going to go down, most likely, right? It's a choice between a constitutional crisis and a financial crisis, right? If you tax wealth and have the wealth leave America, that's going to leave unfunded deficits. Without giving you an economics lecture, that could hurt the bond market or the dollar or both. Now, if I know that, if you know that, if our viewing audience knows that, so does the Fed, right? And you may turn off your TV to go to bed on election night, and Powell is going to hit, you know, the print button, right?
That was easy.
And he's just going to hit it, right? He is going to put. They're going to put 500 billion in, I think. No matter what, there's going to be like, oh, I mean, we did 2.6 in March. We can do 500 on election night. So if that happens, yeah, Bitcoin is going to go up. Ethereum is going to go up a lot, right? But what about these destroyed altcoins? I mean, here, let me see if I can bring up. Okay, so this is like the DeFi futures contract. Okay, you know, here where my mouse is, you know, it goes through this like 76% retracement line, you know, just wrecking everybody, including me. And it was like, everyone's like, Bill, where's support? I'm like, oh, right here on this fib line. Oh, okay, great. Let's just, you know, take it down, take out the stops, take everyone out, right? You know, and I drew some things on here like this downward sloping wedge, right? We were on TV last time talking about the same formation in Kusama, and Kusama broke out. I don't see why it can't happen in DeFi. You know, DeFi went from the hottest thing ever to dead in 30 days. Life is in the gray, not in the black and white. So reality is somewhere in between, and this seems too low. Now back to the Fed. This is the US 30-year bond yield, okay? Also known as the bond vigilantes and a potential wrecking machine. If someone says, you know, we don't like the United States' credibility anymore. Now, what long bonds do is they find these diagonal resistance points, and then they go above them. They scare people. Those are the little rectangles, right? We're doing another scare right now because everyone's like, oh my God, you know, either one of these guys scare me. You know, the macro hedge fund talk is about that whole idea of capital being driven away by the United States by a kind of eat the rich mentality. That hurts bonds. Okay. But again, if I know that, and we all know that, the Fed knows that. So if the Fed's going to allow a long bond scare, okay, well, then we're going to have a really interesting show next week, let me tell you. But it'd be hysterical if the safe haven from what happens next week is destroyed small altcoins led by Ethereum, Bitcoin Cash, And I know everyone hates it, but, you know, sort of interested in Litecoin, but, you know, small alts and your dad's crypto leading.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I like Kusama better than Litecoin because I think Polkadot's going to be big in this movement. And they're essentially the same thing as we discussed on the last call. But to the larger point, you know, Europe is in a complete lockdown at the moment. They're literally rioting in the streets in France and Italy and Poland and Slovenia. You know, we joked about it before coming on the show that in the UK, they're going to be going door to door during Christmas time to make sure that you're following appropriate social distancing rules, that you don't have more than X amount of households sitting at the dinner table. And I made the joke that if that happened in the United States, they'd shoot you at the door. You know, what's really scary is, and this is my macro prediction, and I know this is a little out there, but I think regardless of what happens, there's going to be turbulence and turmoil. Either side is going to sue the other one. It's an unprecedented election with mail-in ballots, with people not being able to go to the polls, all these different lawsuits, instability in the court, new Republican appointed judge in the court as well. That's gonna be a big decision decider in any sort of legal case that gets accelerated. Think Gore v. Bush 2000, right? I'm sure there's going to be something in Pennsylvania. I think I saw that there's like 7 states that are less than 90% in terms of mail efficiency. The U.S. Postal Service now being told to ramp up their picking up of ballots, and there's going to be a lot of mail-in ballots or ballots that were dropped off these boxes that aren't going to be included because they have to be there day of. They could have been mailed 3 weeks ago. So it's an entire shit show. And you know, my father's in the wholesale seafood industry, and he goes to Philadelphia to deliver to restaurants and pick up supply or whatever. You know, there was another African American gunned down in the street by police officers a few days ago. So tensions are very high in the cities, and in Philadelphia specifically, a National Guard on every corner. Right, he's over there on a Saturday, you know, picking up fish and delivering to people, and he needs to get protected by the National Guard because literally mobs of people are hitting the street and either protesting for civil rights, or, you know, protesting for equality, or protesting for even financial instability. They're not passing the stimulus bill, and I think that if Trump wins, I think Democrats clear the Senate and clear the House of Representatives. It's going to be a blue wave, but President Trump is going to try and hang on. So what happens in a post-election during all this chaos when people are trying to get much needed stimulus money? You know, we look at it from the side of the perspective where it's saying, well, you know, Fed's going to print a bunch of money, big stimulus bills going to hit the market, devalue the dollar, et cetera. How bad that is in terms of public image. But we don't look at it from the perspective of, you know, I think at the end of the year, all these the moratorium on rent evictions kicks into place. All these people start losing some of their protections. We still haven't passed a continuation of the CARES Act. You have the stimulus that still hasn't passed. They still can't agree on a number, when in reality they're all just trying to put their own kickbacks in that bill, right? So what happens in a scenario where blue wave happens, Trump wins, there's still no agreement of moving forward with a stimulus bill. What happens if Trump loses and it goes blue? Then you have agreement on a stimulus bill, but Trump's like, okay, I'm not dealing with that. Tries to get the presidency another way or whatever. And then you don't see a stimulus bill until after January 15th, or maybe even late January, early February. And meanwhile, while the whole rest of the world's shutting down, we're letting people catch COVID left and right, like it's a venereal disease on steroids at a party, right? And no one's doing anything about it. We're not shutting down. Well, our cases are going up. Now, you can make the case that things are better now with old folks' homes, and, you know, less people are dying, and we have better ways to treat it with therapeutics, and all of those are true. And do we need to shut down because of that? But people mistake those metrics, right? Because the virus can mutate at any point. It can become something that's more deadly than this. It could become some sort of like Ebola or whatever they thought it was going to become, like the dark plague, right? So the thing is that you don't want people catching it. You like, if you went through a thing where you're trying to be like Northern Europe and have everyone become herd immune, it's almost impossible, right? So everyone's waiting for a vaccine in like 2021 or like sometime in the summer to late 2021. I think, you know, I'm a best man in a wedding in late 2021. I'm optimistic that I'll be at that wedding because I think that things will be better by then. But we have to get from here to then, and then you're going to have to see the economy take a few years to even recycle itself. But what I'm seeing is a direct break off in terms of correlation from the S&P. I have a massive short on the S&P right now. It was pretty apparent in terms of the technicals, and in terms of crypto, everything's bullish. So they're clearly moving in opposite directions, and the market, as you said, tends to surprise people when they least expect it.
All right, so let's take some questions from the audience. Okay, so question from, actually this is a super chat. Thank you, Jarek, in Australian dollars, thank you. What is everyone's thoughts on the graph protocol? Okay, yeah, so we actually put out a code review on this on Token Metrics. Let me just pull this up here. But the tech is good. I mean, this is a pretty credible project from a tech perspective. So we think it has, I mean, as some people would say, fundamentals, but I haven't looked at the actual token sale information. Maddie, have you? In terms of the graph?
I think I looked at it a while back. I didn't like it.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's probably a lot of lockups, probably a lot of float.
Yeah.
You know, there's a lot of amazing projects that are coming out right now that I think are great, but they literally just shoot themselves in the foot in terms of metrics. Or it's like them where I'm not sure if this is done specifically, but let's take PokeSwap for an example. A lot of people are very excited about PokeSwap, but they have like a 2-year lock, right? They're only looking for people who are going to come on for node validators and stuff like that. Because I know a couple of people who are trying to get in there, and they're like, well, like, you know, it's bad when people are hitting you up and being like, yo, what value can you provide so I can go in as a bigger bigger entity. And what it always comes down to, and this is something you'll find, is that VCs get kicked out, hedge funds get brought in, right? They're looking for real capital on the outside. They want that broader vertical in terms of influence, and they're the ones who provide it. So, you know, I'm seeing the same thing with big projects like in PokeSwap, et cetera. So that's why it's, you know, on our end, it's really important.
Wait, so hedge funds are getting into the 2-year lockups?
Yeah, I believe so. Yeah, so if you look at someone like Dragonfly Capital, for example, right, who's a partner of ours, you know, they deploy a large sum of money, and they have traditional routes, like, you know, a lot of different infrastructure that these regular VCs like don't have. We're talking about like crypto VCs, right? Everyone can call themselves a VC. They probably have at best maybe 4 million under management. They're not like a big fund that has like 250 million like Dragonfly is and others. Even Cumberland's getting up there now. So there's a number of different funds that are bringing, you know, bigger firepower to the table. So it's a very saturated space with low cap raises, so they just get booted out right away. So it's better to just like form those partnerships on the other end.
Let me see if I can find their token sale information. Token economics. I mean, so from a tech perspective, it's a great project, but kind of like our stance remains the same with all these new tokens. Wait until the FOMO has died down, and then look to accumulate if you like it long term. If you're playing the whole pump and dump IEO or private sell game, only invest what you're willing to lose, right? So kind of like Hey Matty was showing with his spreadsheet. For those very super risky altcoins, he's putting in 2.5%, for example, right? So I would probably do something like that, maybe 1%, and look to acquire more long term. Let me see if I can find the token sale information here.
Yeah. When you're talking about token sales specifically, like I made a video in 2017 about the life cycle of a project, right? Talked about how the early stage was really marketing, branding, etc. Liquidity is king. Trying to stay as liquid as possible is the best vertical. If you do believe in something long term, and it's like going to be super big, then maybe you'd be willing to take a lockup. Like it's going to be like, I mean, it's going to change the space. Polkadot is a change the space thing. You have to wait a long time to get any sort of Polkadot related tokens. But if I saw something like that came along, I had an opportunity, I'd be willing to get locked up. Other than that, you know, look at Compound, look at Band Protocol, look at all these higher risk assets that are doing big things. They've, as Bill showed you, had a massive sell-off, right? You can wait for those moments in time. They're going to come. You don't have to force yourself into something. If you're a true believer long-term, imagine how many times, Ian, tell them, how many times could you have accumulated Chainlink over the years? Like multiple times. I invested in the ICO. You could have bought it at like, you know, sub like $1.50 or lower in the bear market, you know, so it became big once Coinbase listed it, and then it just went off, right? So if you believe in like long-term vision or whatever, there's plenty of opportunity to accumulate. Even on Polkadot right now, there's opportunities to accumulate. So yeah, I'm financial advice.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that. Okay. Share your comments. Okay. So if you have any questions, please go to menti.com, menti.com. Let's get to Crypto Showdown. All right. So what's the best project? So far people have voted Ethereum, Chainlink, Uniswap. I think pretty straightforward. Bill, could you maybe pull up the TA for these coins? You kind of covered Ethereum earlier, but Chainlink and Uni.
Sure. Just give me a second. You know, it's a good thing. It's a great project and a great chart, because no one makes a living saying anything bad about Chainlink, given the community. Okay. So, okay, it's coming up right now. Okay, so Chainlink. All right, what does it do? All these cryptos all year, the bullish, I call, you know, it's like, I call it the moon formation, right? It's where you go up, you make a square or a triangle consolidation. Then you go up and you make a square or a triangle. You know, the Uniswap moon formation was one square, one triangle. Gone. Okay. Chainlink is probably bigger, may or may not do that. Okay. Chainlink in terms of dollar terms to a new Coinbase investing community looks cheap. Okay. And this right here. Okay. That to me looks like a whole lot of green and people getting excited. That looks like a trend starting. Okay. So when you see these type of things in a market leader like Chainlink, okay, think about the pain trade in the crypto market. Like, I know everyone likes to talk about what hurts the most people, and I actually don't. But wouldn't people look at you like you were nuts if you said a crypto's going straight up? Like, I don't care who wins the presidency or not. I don't care what happens. Crypto's just going to go up. No one thinks that. Now, some of the guys holding Bitcoin do, but nobody thinks that in alts. You get laughed at. Now, I mean, in Uniswap, you know, they've got to find a way to make this relevant, I think, because, you know, people are still selling it when it pops higher, right? It looks like it's just been beaten to death, right? You know, the question is, can it break out? I think Uniswap is a better buy above $2.50 than it is right now. Like, make it prove itself just a little bit. Okay. Mm-hmm. Can it? Sure. Are there better plays out there? Probably.
Yeah. So let's talk about Uniswap real quick and pivot back to Chainlink. With Uniswap, you have the liquidity mining going on. So there's an inflationary aspect in the sense that there's a lot of tokens that are coming into the system. There's a lot of people who have a lot of money in that, and that's essentially providing sell pressure that's happening onto the market. So until we have a full turnaround, that's why when you look at Uniswap, it's just straight down, right? It's because a lot of people are getting these tokens just pumping into the market and selling them. And that's why you're seeing that price structure. So until you get some bullish momentum and shows that people are willing to buy it, it's going to keep doing that. As far as Chainlink is concerned, you know, same thing that we touched about before. It's the leader of the blue chip alts, and the rest will follow in time. But I think what's really important about Chainlink is that Chainlink is not billed as a decentralized oracle, just billed as an oracle that has amazing branding, Link Marines, that whole nine. You know, when you look at its counterparts such as Teller and Band, their build is decentralized, but the problem is, and this is just experience working with decentralized projects, because I'm very bullish on supporting them, is that they bring in these decentralized oracles, and then they set up their on-chain data feed, all that stuff, and then Chainlink comes in and says, hey, and they don't care who it is, by the way. I've seen this with low-tier projects, right? They come in and say, hey, we'll cover your marketing if you switch to us. We have a big presence in marketing in Asia and South Korea. Why don't you switch to us? You would be a fool not to take their marketing. It's free. You need an oracle. Why don't you just go over to them? Like, they're gonna market you, like their marketing brand and association is just bar none. Like, who are the tellers and bands of the world when you have Chainlink? And it's not like a centralized oracle is not decentralized in a sense. It's on chain, like it's price analytics that's coming through the API. Like, no one cares about decentralized oracles. They just care that they need an oracle. I'm a developer. I need an oracle. I need price feed data. As long as it's good and whatever, who cares, right? Not everything needs to be decentralized. But that being said, that marketing, branding, and their ability to just go into any conversation and have that, it's just crushing the competition. So, I am big on when the cup gets to the top, it overflows into the rest, right? So I do think things like Band and Teller will do well regardless, because people still need to fill that void early stage. There'll still be usage, and people love usage, right? But Link will forever be that driving force. And then when you start getting into institutional adoption, where these new players are coming in from an institutional side and they need price data feed that's not fleshed out yet or not built out yet, Chainlink is positioning itself to have those conversations as well. But in terms of my favorite crypto, I'm probably gonna have, like, outside of Bitcoin and ETH, I'm gonna have to go with Polkadot, because we're barely at the start of what they have to offer. Right now, you're seeing all this positive price action. That's all coming from the fact that what they could deliver. So just imagine what happens when they do deliver, and the heads of that project come from a lineage within crypto that's very strong. So I think Polkadot has a lot of staying power here, and I think that it's going to be groundbreaking when it actually does implement what it needs to implement in terms of batch transactions, etc. It's part of Ethereum. Like, Ethereum thrives from Polkadot's success, so we need to keep that in mind.
All right. Thank you. Hey Matty. Okay. All right. Let's go on to the next section. So we have question of the day. All right. Question of the day: what type of crypto investor are you? The options are: 1, I buy crypto and don't touch it; 2, I say I hodl, but I puke when it goes down; 3, I trade and take profits too quick; and 4, I collect bags because I pick wrong alts. All right, so the community has voted. 1, the winner is I buy crypto and don't touch it. Now, I find this very, very interesting. I think, if anything, this and 4 are kind of tied together, because lots of people trade crypto, end up losing money on it, and it becomes a forced hodl. It basically becomes a bag, right? And especially back in 2018, 2019 as well. But then in crypto, at times randomly, those bags end up becoming good investments, right? So kind of as Matty mentioned, we got into the Chainlink private sale. I think the price was probably around 10 cents, maybe 20, 25 cents.
Yeah.
And I took profit around 5-10x, somewhere in between there, because we were entering this long bear market and they had zero marketing, right? Who would have thought that Chainlink would survive a bear market and with no marketing at all and become the best coin out there, right? They ended up getting onto Coinbase, but I think what really changed Chainlink is 4chan. 4chan and just all those memes and the Link army. The community was able to just kind of galvanize around their community, and they became the marketing arm. And I think lots of other projects could probably copy that, because I think that's probably the best community out there. Because, I mean, if you say anything bad about Chainlink, you're done. You're dead. Bill, your take on the answers?
Well, people want to buy it and hold it, and some do. right? Set
Yeah.
it and forget it, maybe, you know, use it as a wealth building instrument long term. But you can tell by the price action that, you know, like, congratulations. I appreciate the people who were honest about either puking or holding bags, right? Because both of those things have gone on in DeFi, and I think there's actually probably been more puking. So when those things happen, that's where the opportunity is for the people who want to just hold it long term, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you think about, you know, basic Elliott wave, right? The thing you want to catch is the big trend or the third wave, right? So the first wave, it starts July and August, then it stops September and October. Okay. And then normally, you know, right before the big trend starts, that's when it's total despair. I have to be honest with you. I looked at this screen on Friday and I was like, I'm done. I'm going to go out and sit in a grassy field. That's how I got this fashionable sunburn. I just said, blanket. I'm not looking at this anymore. Then I'm sitting in the grass. I'm like, okay, this is probably the bottom. A major bottom.
Yeah.
Right? Because I can't look at it. So, you know, I appreciate people's honesty. If you puked or you had a bag or, you know, you just got smoked, okay, great. But then go back to the spreadsheet shown by our guest at the start. And like a major crypto mind is telling you that all this stuff that's been destroyed is far from dead.
Yeah, you know, people suck at controlling emotions, and about 95% of them actually. And you know, from coming from someone who tried to trade Forex for about 2 years, and then once I figured out how to profit from it, left, which is ironic. Basically, if you want to trade Forex, either day trading or even swing trading, you have to have some sort of autonomous system because you're not going to be in the market for certain things. So I said to myself, well, how can I trade Forex and still be able to execute on a level where I don't need to be at my computer all the time? You know, you have a kid and stuff like that. And it came down to spot trading, right? Spot trading is hand over hand the best investment you can make without having to get deep into the market. Like, don't try and be a trader unless you're willing to sacrifice, like, I don't know, 20 hours, 18 hours out of your day without seeing anyone. And for what upside? There's so many other things in the world where you can make way more upside. Take it from someone who did it for over 2 years, right? Who dedicated themselves and said, hey, I'm going to go out and make this of myself. It was an amazing experience for me because it's gone so far. But the thing is that what you learn as a trader is that you suck at emotional experience. You suck at managing your emotions. And this is also coming from someone who played poker professionally for 5 years. So it's the same thing over there. Anything that has to do with money, you need to rework your brain because it's not designed to do that. So a lot of people, they buy in, they see the price go against them, they're like, oh fuck, why did this happen to me again? Right? And then they liquidate. And then what happens? The price goes the other way. And that's why I'm really big on retest trading, right? I'm not looking to have the best entry or exit. I'm just looking to have confirmation, trade the retest. If I miss something, who cares? And then I take profit the same way. Confirmation comes in. If I was to take a short there, that's where I liquidate, right? Price will come back to some sort of level in which you can get decent profits. You know, if you catch a 3 to 5x on Bitcoin, you should be happy. Start putting more capital if you think that that's the issue. If you don't feel like you're making enough money in relevance to your own portfolio or whatever, then obviously your position size isn't big enough. But you know, spot trading is way different than futures trading, right? Futures trading, I only want like 1 to 2% on a loss, while with spot trading, I may be willing to take up to a 10% loss or even sometimes 25% loss for a larger picture play. But I have more of my portfolio in play as well. So, you know, manage your emotions. That's the number one key to trading, investing, all that stuff. And stop complaining to people. You'll notice when you stop complaining to people, you will crush it. You will crush life, because that's happened to me a bunch of times too. In poker, you get bad beat all the time. You want to go to your friend. Oh, you can't believe what happened to me. I lost a 5% on the river again, right? Or like in trading. Oh man, every time I get into this trade, this happens. Shut up. You know, we all get it, but it's going to take years. It's going to take years for you to stop complaining about things. And when you stop complaining about things, everything will change for you. So that it is what it is. I lose 10, 15 grand in a day now. I'm just like, whatever, on to the next one. Cause I know I can make like 100K on the next play. A buddy of mine made literally millions of dollars, or up to $1 million on Keeper. He bought $8, right? Those plays are out there every single day. Keeper came out, Andre tweeted about it. He bought $8. It's worth like 200 some odd dollars right now, 300 at the high. I think it can still go 10x if Binance picks it up, right?
What's the volume on that?
It's insane.
On Keeper?
It's let me bring up Dex Tools. So for those who don't know what Keeper is, this is Andre's new project. Now, I think that it would be responsible enough for me to talk about my opinions about Andre. We go back a while, 2017, 2018. I think he's a cool dude, but there's some rumors out there that things are changing with him that I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to get into that mud because there's a lot of insiders talking about exiting YFI and all that stuff. We've already seen it in the price, right?
Are you able to speak to that as to what people are saying? Is that already public or not?
Some of it I can't, but I know that there's a lot of internal funds and stuff like that who had money in YFI that no longer have confidence, not in the project, but just in what's going on. I think they'll survive, but there's been a lot of people that have been exiting and aren't fond of the way he's looking at things. I mean, look at it from his perspective and look at it from who these people are. He says, I don't build for speculators. Well, they are speculators, right? So so if his mentality is scorched earth, then I'm sure they're not going to, you know, and there's people that are building competition or whatever that they have money invested into too. So there's a lot of things going on with that. That's why I really don't want to get into too much of the mud, but I do want to go through the timeline, right? Andre becomes the next Sergey Nazarov, creating YFI, which could be arguably one of the key pillars of kicking off the DeFi movement. For me, it goes Maker, Ampleforth, YFI, and then Ampleforth again. That kicked off the entire DeFi movement, and then you have Uniswap as well, right? Those are like the five king. Maybe if you take out Ampleforth, the four horsemen.
I would probably add Compound in there because I feel like Compound really
Compound and Aave and stuff.
FOMO to DeFi when Compound launched and had over $1 billion market cap and was top 20. People are like, what the hell is this token?
Well, I think it was Compound that they consolidated for a period of time, I think. But
because they launched and every exchange listed them. I think on the first day, I think it was like Coinbase, Binance, all those big platforms. Yeah.
So for sure. And not to diminish anyone else out there. There's a long list of people that are contributing to the system and building this thing up to, you know, Synthetics as well and Aave. But the thing is, you know, Andre is this golden god at this point. Then the Eminence hack happens, right? And everyone has, you know, you look at Ethereum, they had a major hack as well. Everyone has to get through these pain points. Eminence happened, and I feel like, you know, as someone who's a public figure, content creator, someone who has literally had the highs and lows of being torn down by people in the community, some of their loyal supporters, I'm sure you empathize with this as well, Ian, is that the public can be incredibly brutal, right? And how you respond is really going to define who you are. And I do feel that Andre's response was poor, but it was typical. It was that he was basically like, well, you know, you put your money into a speculative investment, it's your fault, without actually taking accountability for the fact that the Eminence project came from the urine deployer, without taking the responsibility that 15 minutes before everything happened, he was tweeting out media marketing material for the Eminence Twitter account that though he claimed he was asleep, right? So these are major issues, and instead of taking the high road and being like, you know, look, this is like a rare flash loan exploit that happened. It's out of my control. I'm extremely sorry for everyone this impacted into. He was just like, well, go fuck yourself. And this is like $7 million because it would have been 15. He was lucky enough that they sent 8 back, right? Could have been $15 million. That's a pretty sizable chunk of money. A lot of retail money was in that. And I do agree, like, your investments are your own responsibility. When you decide to ape in to experimental contracts or whatever, that's on you, right? Let's not misconfuse what's going on here. It is your responsibility of your own investments, and you need to mitigate that risk both in your position size, when you take profits, etc. Right? So we were lucky to get at least $8 million back, and I was lucky enough to have money in Gil, which was an offshoot coin that I could get back from the bonding curve. So I think I got back like 75% of my investment, right? Could have been nothing. And I definitely went heavier because, you know, Andre put out a poll that said that he wanted the stealth launch. It was from the year-end deployer. And this is the other thing, is that if you're going to be big on testing and production, why are you associating that testing and production with your year-end deployer? Put it on a new deployer that no one knows about, right? There's an example of being more responsible.
Now, deployer as in smart contract or something?
Deployer is just like a
address.
Yeah, like an address that's used. So the year-end deployer is his year-end address. It's YFI's address, right? So he's using that deployer to deploy these smart contracts, right? So let's get to Keeper then, right? With Keeper, there was like 2 or 3 versions of Keeper that were deployed, and people aped into them, and then he rugged them. And a rug is when you pull the liquidity out, right? And he basically rugged them because he tests in production. Now we have test nets for testing. It is a standard, not only in crypto, but in development, right? So there's a test net to test on, but the thing is that he wants to test with real people using it. That's my take on it. That's how I see it. He wants people to actually use it.
I mean, my understanding is that he actually does do testing, but he says that publicly so people don't just FOMO into it and put their life savings into it.
For sure. I think what's happened in the recent past with the Keeper is that this recent Keeper, he told people, hey, look, I'm really confident in this one, but as a liability thing, I'm just going to say this is a beta. And I get that. I think this launch was the most responsible because he was like, okay, this is a beta, like still don't ape in, but you know, this is like better than the ones before. And the other ones he just like rug pulled and people lost money on, right? And then he like put out a small disclaimer. So now he's moving at a way where he's totally disenfranchised from the space because he's upset with all these people that are literally criticizing him. And for me, it's not about hate, it's about facts, right? I can respect you and I can love you as someone who is contributing to the space while still having criticisms about you. One of my biggest idols is Steve Jobs. There was a ton of criticism from his peers about some of the stuff that he did. And you can even argue to the fact that it wasn't until Steve Jobs left Apple and came back, that's what the ex-CEO of Apple actually said, that Steve went through next and other things in which he became a seasoned and experienced leader. Then he came back and he was a much better person, right? So we as personalities, or we as people who live in this space, like die and breathe in this space, we can have opinions without being haters. So what this Keeper project is, pivoting from that prehistory of leading up to this point, is that it's essentially like a on-chain task deliverable thing where you'll get Keeper in return for tasks, but it goes much deeper than that. Like the number one wallet owner is Cream, for example. And one example that my one partner likes to put out is that there's opportunity to actually develop oracles on Keeper to get price feeds from higher valued keepers, set the Keeper price, etc. So there's a lot of excitement here with this project in terms of having on-chain jobs being performed where people can perform those and be incentivized, because I'm really big on incentivization. I'm really big on being able to provide a paradigm in which people are incentivized to do so. The downside is that it's possible that long-term this could become an inflationary mechanism, and you need to take that into account when you're looking at price, because people are getting free tokens for stuff. But in the early stage right now, it's not on Binance yet, and it's now been proven to work. Hedgex Keepers went up, Cream's Keepers went up. It's working. I see no reason why Binance shouldn't adopt it. Yeah, go ahead.
So, because I've been hearing a lot about this, but I haven't looked much into it. So he launched a new token or project that's meant to incentivize people to do tasks.
Yeah,
like
that's
provide
what
liquidity.
That's what Keeper is.
So it's kind of like what, like Amazon Turk for DeFi.
Yeah, you could put it like that, but there's a lot more moving parts, and including like I don't know all the nuances. I had to bring my buddy on who's like super big into it. But he talks about like bonded tokens and stuff like that. You can bond your tokens.
Yeah.
People are accountable for
okay, so a person is calling this TaskRabbit for crypto. Okay, that makes sense. Bill, could you maybe pull this up and we do some tea on it? So it's Keeper. Let me
Yeah, I can do some TA on it if you
Can do
want
some TA?
first.
Okay.
Yeah, because I have
Go ahead.
I have Dext up. So this is only, you can only really find this on Dext. Dext is dextools.io, which is pretty much the standard. You can use ChartX and I think there's Uniswap.vision, but I think that Dext is the most up to date. I have like 20K tokens for live data feed. So let's hop into this. So basically, if you're looking at this from a whole, here was your massive breakout to the upside. There was a consolidation into a bull flag that went up 2-to-1 ratio. Same thing here, ended up breaking down. So in this period of time is where he started actually rolling out some of the keepers and technically the mainnet went live. So this is kind of where I'm going to look at it from a TA perspective. There's really like, I'm just going to draw these loosely. There's really like kind of two, there was this, right? And then there was, I'm just drawing these really kind of shitty. This one can really come up to there. So we're kind of in between these two vertical lines. We've come back down to the 618, I believe, from previous low to high. And there. So it defended the 618 beautifully, both here and here in between those two areas of buying pressure. So what we're looking at from right now is to get above this vertical line in which we saw multiple points of buy pressure and now turning into sell pressure. We're looking to get above there and kind of fly on out of here. Once we get above here, we can retest the high, which if you do a fib extension would be the the 618 on that end, and you'd be looking for your next move up to 400. In my opinion, what would fuel that? Obviously, people seeing the value in it, but I think that Binance is going to be looking at something like this. You could be seeing accumulation because maybe they're accumulating a sizable bag to be able to trade on it, because with a lot of DeFi projects, if you're going to list it, you're the one who's providing the market making. So you're kind of getting your brand behind it. So that way you can, you're getting your brand behind it. So that way you can pump the price for your own gain. It's very hard to get, DeFi projects to come on and hire a market maker
with this
for you.
project, did Andre also launch this as a fair launch, or is this different?
Yeah, so it was just, I don't know how fair it was in the sense of if he had any tokens. I don't believe he did. I think that some of the partners had, like, if you look, Cream is like the #1 buyer of it. They're the #1 holder of it because they're one of the first major 4 partners. I think the major 4 partners are like Synthetics, Cream, Hedgic, and whoever the other one is. You just have to go to their Medium. So major players are getting involved in this. And Cream has a relationship with Binance as well. So just remember that. Think of that correlation.
What kind of relationship?
Yeah, so if you go to Cream, I think it's Cream.finance. I don't want to go to a porn website on your stream. So let's actually search for Cream. You never know. That's
you never know.
Yeah, I think on one of their websites, it showed like a Binance relationship. Not on the app. Here it is. So if you go to Cream, no, they're with CoinGecko. Maybe it was one of the other partners. I'd have to go look back, but one of their partners on their website has a Binance affiliation. So, and I think that it's inevitable, right? I think that after Eminence happened, they essentially were very hesitant. I think everyone's hesitant to deal with him in the space. But the image has been saved a little bit because that history is important. When YFI came out, I think they listed them within 2 weeks, right? When things started going crazy with YFI, they were listed on Binance. With Eminence happening, that's a big black eye to him. And then also the way that Keeper rolled out was kind of a continuation of that black eye.
Now, could you explain Eminence to our audience?
Yeah,
kind of like a Cliff Notes version.
Yeah, the Cliff Note version on Eminence, outside of the story that I already told, was that Eminence was supposed to be, I'm not sure if NFTs were involved, but it was supposed to be some sort of game, crypto game. And there was going to be these different clans of like the Link Marines versus these other people. And you would collect, I think, NFTs in the game. And it was a personal project that he was working on. And for all intents and purposes, he rolled it out, and people were super bullish on it. Like tons of people moved in. Like the TVL on it was insane. To answer your question before, the daily volume on Keeper right now is close to 20 million. I think it was almost 100 million at some point. But what ended up happening was someone did a flash loan to exploit Eminence, and a lot of us speculate that it was someone close to the project because it was shortly after it got launched. So for someone to have someone random to have the smart contract code that quickly and exploit a flash loan would have been, I don't want to say it would be impossible, but it's unlikely. And then someone who hacked it for 15 million sent 8 million back, and the 7 million has just been sitting in that wallet ever since, right? So where's the upside to that? So I've had some speculation about, maybe there's someone who wanted to put him out of business, like just like try and like exit him from the space, or maybe it was someone who was close to them who just said, hey, opportunity. Because when I talk to some whales in the space who are in the know, they say he's playing too quick. He's shooting from the hip. He's not taking the appropriate measures that he should be taking as someone from his position. He had it made. He literally, if he didn't want to, so he still has it made to a degree, but if he didn't want to, keep building, he could have just like sat at a fund for the rest of his life making millions, right? That's not who he is. So it's, he is playing very fast and very dangerous, and the people in this space are cold-hearted, and when they see someone doing that, they're going to try and exploit you. So I think the Andre here's the tear at my heart on both ends is that loosely knowing him for 2 years, he's very like he presents himself as someone who's pure, like a purist, and he wants to build and contribute and not make it about money. And I talked on the show last time about the war between the different factions in crypto and the dev core people who do value money. I mean, I don't think anyone doesn't value money, but there's a group of people who are dev core. They value a lot. They value like building stuff. They don't want to be associated with these institutional speculators. And then there's the institutional speculators, and they need each other on some sort of level.
Right?
I mean, it's semantics, right? It's
preservation. Because Yearn finance is really speculation for lending stablecoins.
Yeah.
Right? So by definition, it's for speculators.
Yeah. So I mean, it doesn't make sense from a hypocritical standpoint, but these people want to make sure that their branding is one of us.
Now, Bill, any comments? Because I want to make sure we get to the AMA.
Okay, so with things like hacks, and if you listen to this story, and I'm thinking to myself, this is one of the reasons why crypto went down. Like crypto, we talk about on the show, it's the most unique market in that it can like F itself. It doesn't require some sort of external force. Some bad actor comes in and all of a sudden, everything goes to zero. Well, the fact of the matter is, if this story is one of the things that helped kill DeFi in people's minds, then DeFi is not dead, right? It was just an incident. It looked bad. Everyone sold. That's it. Right? It's just another example of somebody making a mistake that changes perception temporarily.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely. It wasn't good for DeFi, but I think it's just like I said, you're in between phases right now, and the second wave is coming. Right now, you're just dealing with everyone, like literally all these anon projects, like 90% of them rug you. So it's get in, get out. With Eminence, it was just an unfortunate a flash loan. I don't hold Andre to account on that. I hold Andre to account on his actions that happen after it. Because at some point you can't just come out and say, well, go fuck yourself, right? Happened on your watch. Buck stops with you. So
yeah. Okay, let's get to some questions from the audience.
By the way, Ethereum up $15 since we started this live cast.
Good luck, Tron. All right, so if you have any questions, go to menti.com, MENTI.com. Use the code 772522, 772522. Question is, can you guys do a review or share your thoughts on BIDAO, BID, fundamentals and TA? Thanks. So this protocol has been pretty popular for the last few months. We've covered this before. Not too bullish on their fundamentals, but fundamentals right now don't really matter in crypto. Things have just been pumping based purely on FOMO. Right. So if you're trading it, I will just defer to Matty and Bill and just kind of go through that based on TA. but I don't really see why the fundamentals are strong as to why, because I think people just liked it because they were building on Binance. But other than that, I don't see how they're fundamentally better than anything that's currently out there. If anything, when we looked at their GitHub, it was pretty bare bones, pretty inactive, and I think it was just hype. Bill, your take? Okay, I think you're on mute, Bill.
Okay, so if I've got it versus wrapped ETH here on Uniswap. Okay, you know, this looks like something that you could have a possible give up trade in, where people just, you know, sort of throw in the towel. You know, that might have happened here. And this could be the base. So it's kind of a mixed picture, right? You know, this has been how cryptocurrencies have bottomed this year, with these downward sloping formations. Okay. So when they break out of the top, it's like a Kusama and it goes. Or when it breaks out of the bottom, it goes like a Uniswap and you wind up losing, you know, half your money. I think there's better plays out there.
I call those 50 balls. You're either going to lose 50% or it's going to go like 4 to 5x plus.
All right. Anything else on your end, Matty? Good.
Yeah, I mean, you know, people are trying to recreate the wheel on the DAO structures. You had a big DAO movement in the pooling game. I think that if high risk assets come back and you start seeing big investments and they start flooding the pools again, you know, DAOs will have a big move. That'll probably bleed into DAOFi. I was an investor in DAOFi. Unfortunately, they started off to a poor launch. Andrew Lee's project, good friends with Andrew. But I still see some relevance there. You know, they're building something
What
real.
happened to? So I haven't followed the project, but I think because I think Diego was an investor in it. He told me that there was, I guess, it basically crashed. Was that just kind of based on the market crash, or was there some kind of event? Or
there was a catalyst for that. There was a catalyst for that. So the way the token metrics were structured, subtle plug there. The way the token metrics were structured was that round two. Sorry, there was the unlocked round, which I had the privilege of getting into, and then there was 2 rounds that were locked, and they were supposed to get 20% tokens up front. But for some reason, the smart contract wasn't designed to mint on the initial emissions mint function to give that 20%. So the 2 other rounds, which had lower prices, they didn't distribute those tokens to those holders. So then they kind of put out this statement that said that they were going to dilute, which means that they were going to airdrop across the board so that everyone's exposure was the same percentage, but you would get 20% for the people who were unlocked. The people who were in the private investors chat, these are like the core investors that I was in, they were kind of pushing to say, well, the unlocked round should have been that 20% that would be given to them should be locked. And they were saying that because a lot of people had already sold. Now, I didn't sell. I actually bought the project because it's a friend's project, wanted to support it. I actually bought more at like 25 cents or whatever. The problem is there in that scenario is that, you know, we paid a premium to be unlocked. So you can do whatever you want with your tokens. If you're diluting across the board, it doesn't really make sense. So at the end of the day, and this was against my better judgment at the time because I didn't really think about it, but at the end of the day, the best scenario was to take down the contract and then launch a new one that had the distribution into it. So the team came to the right decision. And what I essentially told them was, hey, take some time and go think about this and then come back. Now they've terminated the people who are associated with that blunder. There was another blunder as well while this was all going on, was that instead of putting their liquidity on Uniswap and letting people trade it, they put a majority of liquidity on Balancer, which if you've ever used Balancer, their UI is awful. And only a few people were able to get in there. So I bought on Balancer and then got wrecked. I got double wrecked. I got wrecked in my investment at 20 cents, which fell to 14 cents. And I got wrecked on Balancer as well. That being said, you know, Andrew and his team are building, and they're building something that I think is niche, but could become more relevant in the future. You know, people are really interested in DAOs to the concept of what we're talking about with DAOFi, with BuyDAO. And you know, what DAOFi does is essentially creates a marketplace for DAO focused projects, and it has community integration that's built in with that. So if people find more value in certain DAOs or whatever, which we're seeing a lot more of nowadays, then DAOFi can position itself to have some sort of presence. How big that presence becomes, who knows? I still think that it's really, really niche. But I do have faith in Andrew's team to be able to develop and produce, because they're the kind of like Andrew values his reputation to a degree. You know that from just knowing him over the years. So it's not like he's just going to up and run and take off. So I think that he's going to continue to build his project. And I think when the market turns around, I'm gonna come back in and buy some more. Not financial.
Yeah. Bill, could you maybe pull this up as well on your end?
Okay.
Yes.
What's the symbol on this one?
DAOFi, DAOFI.
It's probably another one that you're gonna have to pull up on Dex Tools.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can bring that
I think
up
Bill
if you want.
has it. Yeah. Also put that up on your end. I think Bill has a different platform you're using. Which platform do you use, Bill?
I use Astro.
Which one?
Astro, probably.
Yeah,
Okay,
I have
go ahead,
Chartx, and then I have charts at
Chartx.
CoinTrader.
Okay.
Yeah. So just looking at this real quick, again, I'm pretty sure this is the most recent. So you can see there was a big dump that came out because of what happened. They actually managed to pump the price up back to 20 cents for anyone who wanted to exit at cost. Most likely a whale who had large position that wanted to get out. I see this a lot of the time when pumping. I mean, it doesn't take much to pump on Uniswap. You can see here that the liquidity is only 850K. So if you have a vested interest to get out, then you'll definitely perform that vested interest. Where we're at now, though, is kind of we're back in this initial decision, kind of breaking these buy supports that had happened from the 18th to the 28th, and now it's consolidating. I don't think that it's stopped. Again, you know, it's a niche product. So how much is that really worth? Not to mention the lockups that are out there. So there's float right now. It's saying the fully diluted cap is 12 million. A lot of the times I'll come here. This is a nice little tip for people who are in the DeFi space. So you got to come to the page where it actually shows the address. It'll show you holders. And I can see here that 66.7% of the token is locked up in some sort of contract. This is probably the contract that has the locked tokens in it, right? This is 17%. That's very abnormal compared to the rest. This is probably a team tokens contract. And then you have Uniswap, which will round it out to 20%. So 86% of the tokens are locked, which I always am concerned about, because that's just future float that you have to worry about. So unless a market turns around, then it's not really worth getting in. But the point of this exercise is that the rest of this is 14% being held by holders, and a majority of these holders don't hold more than 1% of the supply. We can see that there's 927 holders, which is really good. You're trying to see more than 200 to 250 holders at minimum. So there's a lot of dispersed holders, etc. If we take this market cap and multiply it by 14% to get the circulating market cap off of this 13 million fully diluted, you actually come to about 1.8. And I would say like any project that's even stable is probably between 1 to 1.3. So you're really not that far off from the bottom. But from a technical perspective, you need to let this play out. It's a very high risk investment. It's in a niche field. It could be something that appears in the next wave of projects where people are more bullish on DAOs, right? So so I think it's a cool project, and it's a project from someone who I know who's actually developing something. It's not an anon project. They have a ton of liquidity here. They got to get this volume up. They got to get over to a centralized exchange, probably get a market maker of some sort if they choose to go that route. Either way, because this liquidity will eventually get ate through, right? That's the downside of Uniswap. And I've
Bill,
actually had
any other thoughts
to
add to that?
Yes, I have it here. Okay. So check me, gentlemen. I think I got the right symbol here. So with this, you know, I talked about the Uniswap moon formation, which was, you know, a triangle and then a square and then up. And then in these cases where these coins have to make a base or, go through kind of like it died and then gets resuscitated, are these like double spikes, right? So you have the spike here, and then you have another spike, and then there's a possibility that people may give up on this thing into support, right? It's like the last coin that we're at, right? If you see the capitulation, then that's the opportunity to get in, right? I don't really see the consolidation here to like go for an up move. It's kind of like you let it drop and then it's a punt, if you will.
All right. Thank you, Bill. So tell us what you think down in the comments below. Let's go to the next question. Okay, so question is thoughts on Ocean Protocol and their partnership with Deutsche Bundesbank and others. Okay, I haven't heard about this news recently, but let me see if I can find it. Okay, that's not it. Yeah, anybody heard about the news? But in general, though, we did look into Ocean Protocol. It is on tokenmetrics.com, so you can go there and find a full review on it. It's a decent project. I would say mainly from fundamentals. Tech-wise, our team was not so bullish on it. Bill, could you maybe pull up TA on your side as I'm going through? Let's go through the price prediction, for example. Looking at this, yeah, it is pretty choppy in terms of price. It kind of moves. Yeah, I mean, those are sharp edges. But we think this could go to about 32 cents. But in terms of any partnerships, we've not really kept too much attention on this project.
All right, here it comes. Okay, so with this, it kind of remains to be seen, but this could be your square, and this could be your triangle, right? So when you have things like this, okay, there's possibility that if it exits the triangle, if that is in truth what it is, all right, it's got a shot at taking out this area, right? But this is doing all the right things based on how we know these small coins behave, right? Now, I don't know about the news about them doing either, with Deutsche Bank or with the Central Bank of Germany, the Bundesbank. I don't know what you're referring to, but this actually just came out. Like the Reserve Bank of Australia is partnering with private sector companies, okay, to get their own central bank project going. So I have heard talk that, one of the ways that the governments want to get into the stablecoin market or the central bank digital currency market is to actually use private sector platforms to do it, right? In other words, governments may want to do what they do best in their mind, which is regulate, right? And then that could allow private sector platforms to help the governments issue their own currency, right? So the private sector does what it does best, it builds, and then the governments kind of oversee and regulate, right? So to the extent that this coin can benefit from that theme, it can.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think, you have liquidity on Binance and you're a Web3 based project. So you have some staying power. After looking at that chart that Bill had shown on the screen, it looked like it broke its daily resistance, came back for a retest, most likely at that 618 level, and it looks primed to continue its momentum up. So I'll probably, after this call, move in.
All right. So tell us what you think about this project down in the comments below. Going on to the next project. Okay, so people want us to take a look at, all these unknown projects. Well, Ocean we knew, but this one, Shorter. Anyone heard of this one?
Trash
This some
can.
new DeFi.
Yeah, I mean that name's terrible. So it's like, how generic can you get?
Yeah, let me take a look. Okay, so it is on
Charter
CoinMarketCap.
It's 729 on CoinGecko.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
900 market cap. Yeah, this is
It's on Hotbit and Blacksea and Uniswap.
very illiquid.
Let's see what it does.
16,000 volume.
Charter.org.
Multi-chain storage and validation network.
I'm trying to build off the Filecoin movement.
Yeah.
Someone asked about
cross-chain
Filecoin, by the way, in
Filecoin.
the chat. Yeah, it says right here, Charter for Filecoin users can provide other blockchain storage projects with a viable validation service, which I think is interesting if it's realistic.
Yeah. I mean, so we haven't done any deep analysis on this, but let's take a look at the TA. Bill, let me know once you have it pulled up.
Let me see if I have it here. Let me share the screen.
Okay.
All right. Okay, again, check me on my symbol here. This is
yes, SS.
Okay.
Yep.
So with this, it looks like people who were holding this, who wanted to get out, got themselves a liquidity event here with all this volume. Okay. So it could be a breakout, but with ETH going up and all these other alts, it looks like they lifted it so that they could unload it. Okay. I mean, that's just a guess. It could be the greatest thing ever. But again, we're on this theme where people are coming in probably upset that they got involved in this, and there's probably better plays out there. Okay. My guess is that this would probably have to consolidate for a day or two before you'd know whether this was, like the final spike before it dies, or whether this is a real move.
It looks like there's only 20K daily volume on it with 100K liquidity on Uniswap. Now, mind you, a lot of that probably got sucked over to Blacksea and Hotbit, but it does look like it broke up and is now having its consolidation. So it is interesting. It's getting a 99 on the DEX score.
Now, could you explain DEX scores again?
Yeah, I mean, take it with a grain of salt. Like if you look at DEX's hot pairs, for example, that's just based off people who click the follow button or favorite button. But the DEX score essentially just takes a number of different metrics and puts it all together. So it looks at its pool. Here, I'll share my screen just for a second. I know we gotta get to other stuff, but if you look here, it has like information, transactions, holders, creations, pools. They have a way of kind of combining these metrics to kind of look at them all and create like a DEX score.
It's kind of like a confidence score or liquidity score?
Yeah, it's kind of like a confidence score. CoinMarketCap also has its own confidence score. You can go to probably the DEX board, and there's probably something here that talks about it somewhere. Yeah, somewhere. You can probably look somewhere on their website. It has a more robust definition, but yeah, no, the DEX score in its simplest forms are just essentially a confidence score with these different metrics.
All right, thank you. Okay, so let's go on to the next question. Okay.
Someone in the chat said they sharded earlier today. Love it.
Okay, so could XDAI stake be the Canary network of Ethereum? Okay, not sure I quite understand the connection to. Is Canary network something for blockchains like Polkadot? I feel like I've heard that term in the blockchain space, but just based purely on the tech. I mean, XDAI is legit. So if we go and pull up XDAI on Tokenmetrics, we think it's definitely one of the more promising projects. We do have a full code review available on the site, and we also emailed this out a while back, we're still looking into fundamentals, but from a pure tech standpoint, it's definitely a good project. We had Andy on our team share his thoughts on with our group, I think probably 2 months back on this project. Bill and Matt, any comments, or could you guys go through the TA for XDAI?
Yeah, I'll let Bill handle the TA. I'll just go macro on it real quick. I think there's a lot of people who are trying to revolutionize the stablecoin space. You know, one that comes to mind for me was Empty Set Protocol, which had a big moon up to about 100 million market cap, just to kind of show you the potential of some of these stablecoins. A lot of people in the rebate space are trying to do it with low success rate at the moment. Amplify still leading that charge on the at least the stable dollar peg. But people are really trying to figure it out. You know, I'm semi-wrecked at the moment, but am a long-term holder right now of this dollar protocol as well, which has like a share token for a one-to-one rebase between themselves. So all these different approaches in terms of creating an actual stable coin that's decentralized are extremely exciting. So XDAI seems to be capitalizing on that network. But we'll kick it over to Bill out in the key for the TA.
All right, Bill, you're on mute.
All right, so checking my symbol here, make sure I got the right one.
Yep.
This looks like the DeFi index. Okay, you had the 76% retracement level of the whole trend up. Okay, and then that was right here. Okay, and then you see all these like bright red candles right here, where everyone just gave up right into a point where a horizontal support point, which is where the whole move started from. So it's kind of like the great reset.
I mean, that's incredible. That's like a whole month of just red, right?
Well, it's a 4-hour chart, right? But
October was a whole month of red for DeFi.
Right. So I mean, this is what people giving up looks like. You know, it's kind of your classic. You know, it's like something out of a book.
Yeah, that's brutal.
Right, where that's what a 5-wave or final leg of anything looks like. It's just straight that way. All the stops get run. I mean, the pain here is unbelievable, right? Like here's the big fib number where honestly, I probably would have told people support was they buy here and then they sell here and then it goes up. That's just how bear markets work.
If all the TAs coming together, we're ready for this niche altcoin rally that's about to happen, Bill. All the charts are looking the same. You know what it is?
It's all the same. And the whole idea, again, in the bullish Bitcoin crowd, is that Bitcoin's going up no matter what happens with the election. And I don't necessarily disagree. But again, nobody is saying, you know, shitcoins forever with the macro environment the way it is. And I think you can actually adopt that attitude and start buying, right, in the DeFi space, in the small alt space, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's actually combine this with a different question. Matic versus XDAI. So maybe Bill or Matty, feel free to pull up Matic as well.
I mean,
Matic, first of all, disclosure, I do own Matic. I'm staking Matic, long-term believer in Matic. But I mean, XDAI is definitely competing with them, but based on, because with our private group, we had the COO Sandeep basically do a presentation on Matic to our professional customers. And we're actually pretty impressed with what's happening in DeFi on Matic. And if I had to choose between one, I would still choose for Matic. Obviously, that's why I'm investing in it. XDAI, my understanding is this is the same team that came from POA, from Ethereum a while back. This was basically a fork of Ethereum that's using proof of authority, right? So it's not really, at least my understanding of it based on what Sandeep was saying, is it's not really competing with Matic, right? Because to them, they don't believe the competition just based on how they have a totally different consensus algorithm.
I was confused on the comparison because Matic's a layer 2 solution that's driving to lower gas costs, and the other one seems like some sort of like DAI complement, right? But maybe there's some more to it. I'm not exactly familiar with XDAI.
Yeah, so they're kind of doing lots of different things. They do have, I believe, their own pegged stablecoin, but they also do help with scaling. But their scaling has limitations. I think that obviously this is way too technical for me to kind of get into, and I'll just defer to our code review team that's done the actual code review. But I do encourage our customers to go to the platform and see all their analysis. But my understanding is that they don't think they're competing at all, even though people like to put them in the same category. But if you got to the Matic team, don't say, if people think they're competing with them, they're doing their job, right? Because as I mentioned before, they have a totally different consensus algorithm, and Matic, I'm sorry, XDAI is following POA, proof of authority, or basically is kind of centralized in a way, right? And that's what
POA is. So for someone who supported POA, it's a failed vision. It's essentially like 50 to 100 node validators that I believe were primarily in the US, but I think now are abroad, that are corporations, right? If that's correct.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
you know, there's everyone's trying to give their different take on consensus, but I really feel like we've moved past that. Ethereum's the standard, so you know, everyone's waiting for 2.0. Like there's these niche or whatever, but POA was so 2017. Obviously now they're pivoting. You know, Matic on the other hand is in the thick of it with the scalability of Ethereum, though there are alternatives that are better. But you know, full disclosure, our sister company to our accelerator is an early investor into Matic and a big holder. But I just see, you know, working with projects on a day-to-day basis, they are some of them are coming to us and saying we're launching on Matic. I'm not sure if that branding is taking effect like it would like with a Chainlink partnership or whatever, but it's definitely relevant. You know, Matic went on Binance, had huge returns. Granted, had a big dump at some point that everyone questioned, but it has now since bounced back to a degree. So it has that staying power, and they're definitely fostering projects to come to them and build on them, which is always a bullish technical indicator for me, or a macro indicator for me.
Some comments here from the audience. Okay, so XDAI is also layer 2 with bridges. Stake is a full scaling solution using optimistic rollups. XDAI Stake is getting a lot of traction with developers. They're both finalists in Reddit scaling competition. Actually, let me see if I can get what our code review team shared. Just give me 1 second here. I think that would definitely help out.
I'll have to take a deeper dive into these guys.
Okay, so here's the Cliff Notes version. XDAI is both a stablecoin and a sidechain of Ethereum using a different consensus protocol called POS-DAO, proof of stake DAO, I believe. This sidechain, in addition to bringing new features such as on-chain randomness, okay, let me just skip this. The TPS offered by the chain currently sits low at 70 TPS compared to other solutions like Matic, which has around 7,000 TPS, but should be able to improve thanks to horizontal and vertical scaling if needed. Okay, anyway, back to you, Bill.
Okay, so with Matic, I can actually offer a couple perspectives because I actually did hear them present on one of our private group calls. You know, I'm looking at this, and this is another item where, you know, you have this bullish downward sloping wedge. It's the push the basketball underwater formation. Once you let go of the basketball, it not only comes to the surface of the water, but it comes all the way out, right? And that's what's happening in Matic. And Matic actually has a kicker on the chart formation in the sense that they did a false breakdown through the bottom. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means the bears took it through, okay? But then the bulls counterattacked. And a lot of times when you take out the bottom line, you turn around and take out the top line, right? Hence this blue arrow. So there's a lot of things about Matic where they're flying under the radar. And there are catalysts coming up with this. So if you go through this list of what's in the rubble and say, hey, I want to do a 2-month trade, this might have to be on the list.
All right. Thank you, Bill. So tell us what you think down in the comments below. Let's go on to the next question.
So, side note, can you believe someone just took action for me? I took Biden, they took Trump on 1-to-1. Can you believe that right now?
1-to-1,
One
as
to
in
one. Yeah, 1-to-1,
betting.
like straight up, yeah. Like he bet me Trump would win 1-to-1 straight up. By the way, like Biden's like 90% favorite at 538 at the moment. Like I get it, polls lie or whatever, but that's like the worst. It's like the worst that you're betting Trump 1-to-1. I would at least be asking people to give me like 2.5, you know?
Okay, I mean, okay, people in the comments are saying Trump will win, says Skylar. Okay, not sure. I mean, I think, as you mentioned, the polls, it's very hard to believe the polls, right? But I mean, I think pretty much most people believe with strong certainty that Biden is going to win, right? But I think for crypto, I don't think it matters who wins. I think regardless, they'll print money and everything will pump to the moon and beyond. That's kind of the
Yeah.
sentiment. But if everyone's thinking that, maybe that's not the case. Maybe it will take a lot longer. But either way, though, I think it's definitely going to be a very interesting time. Definitely, at least I don't think it makes sense to have trades in crypto during the election because of the uncertainty. Or if you're up on big trades, definitely make sure to take profits. Bill, your take? How do you think the election will affect things?
Okay, so when they said that they weren't going to do the stimulus, that's it's pretty brutal. When they adjourned the Senate and said we're not doing anything on stimulus until after the election, particularly with the evictions and all of the sort of protection for renters that are going to expire soon, that seems really brutal. Honestly, I think that's driven by the Fed and the Treasury saying, don't put 2.2T in circulation. The bond market will go hysterical. Let the election go by. Let the Fed put money in the system. Then you can do what you need to do. So I think they held off on stimulus because they're concerned about rates. And what I'm reading is that the big metric to look at for crypto for the election is what happens with long-term interest rates. If they're stable or go down, crypto can go up a lot. One thing people forget about 2018 is that one of the things that helped wreck crypto was a huge Fed tightening cycle, right? Where short-term interest rates went up a lot. Okay. So, it was like 1x or 2x on short-term interest rates. So what happens with rates is probably more important than what happens with stocks. And I think at the end of the day, I think all the bad things that anybody can imagine will probably occur. It may not occur on November 3rd, but they probably will between now and January when the inauguration happens. I just think you're going to see the central banks, right? Central banks, particularly in Europe. I mean, the Fed is aware of what's going on in Europe with the virus, right? And I know that in the crypto community, we make jokes about the Fed, about printing money, about central banks. This situation may be so volatile. This may be a situation, unlike many of the other situations prior to the pandemic, where they're justified in coming in massively. Right. Like if governments are talking about knocking on your door Christmas Day, you have a national security problem. And this is why you have central banks right now. Of course, being a crypto head, we're talking our book, and we're talking altcoins. I do work for Token Metrics, but I do like the charts. And I do like the idea of, what's the new QQQ, right? So it's like, what should you have for the election, right? And Matty put it up, right? You should have 2% in all of these things that could turn into a component of the next QQQ or NASDAQ 100. The next NASDAQ 100 is in crypto somewhere. And now when everyone is distracted, now could be the time to go shopping. You're just going to have to stomach the volatility if there's a move in interest rates. But you've been stomaching the volatility in DeFi. the whole time. Like everyone in legacy is like, ooh, what's going to happen? And everybody in crypto is like, well, dude, it kind of already did happen. It went all the way up and went all the way back down. I mean, there is support at zero, but we've already lived through it in crypto.
For sure. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Okay, so how are we doing on time, everyone?
I'm good.
I'm good.
Maybe like you good? Okay, all right. Let me continue. Actually, let's check in with the audience in the comments and see what questions they have here. Florian says, thank you, Ian and Bill, for the weekly recap. I always look forward to this. Also great to have a knowledgeable alternating guest on board. Keep it up. Thank you. We appreciate it. Crypto is moving again. Okay. Looks like Bitcoin and ETH are moving. Let me take a look. I know somebody mentioned ETH was moving.
Yeah, Link's also up like 80 cents. Everyone from your community is going to buy.
Yeah, I see Link up 3.3%. Okay. All right. Then moving on. People talking about XDAI. HoneySwap is on XDAI. Okay. Trump has made America weaker again. Okay. People talking politics. Nice to see that during the course of this show, 5 billion has come back into the ecosystem, I believe, or economy. Okay. Here's a question. Why are people in crypto so hyped about newer coins promising the world? Because people like FOMO. Well, actually, I would say people like making money. And the fastest money to make in crypto is always with new coins. Because when they launch with poor pricing, essentially meaning that they get repriced very quickly. And there's lots of arbitrage in capturing that value, right? If you find something that is grossly mispriced and you end up getting in early, you can make a killing. You can retire off of that in just 1 year, right? So I think that's why also people race to find the shiny new sexy token whenever it launches. Matty, your take?
Yeah, I mean, I literally watched the guy who was well, I don't want to call him broke, but the partner that I have on now is he's extremely good research analyst. I've been working with him since 2018, off and on, and I pretty much brought him on and said, hey, I want you to do research for me with me and look into stuff or whatever. This is back in like August, right? And back then, I was paying him a salary and he was getting a profit share of that. So just to kind of put you into his paradigm of where he was, that was in August. That man is on the cusp of becoming a millionaire today. So that can just show you how quickly your life can change in crypto when you're investing in the most volatile assets on the planet. He literally went from being we no offense to anyone out there, we call them wage cucks. He went from being a wage cuck to being it's like pretty much life-changing money, right? And wage cuck is essentially someone who does the 9 to 5, and that's perfectly fine. My parents 9 to 5, my wife does 9 to 5. No, there's no ill intent when I say that terminology, but it's a mentality shift, right? When you go from the wage life to someone who's your own boss and your own financial stability, that's true freedom, right? True freedom comes from having financial responsibility, being able to go to any jurisdiction around the world in which you want to live in and abide by those laws instead of being constrained to your locale, which brings systemic risk, as we've seen historically, right? So your goal is to accumulate as much wealth as possible as quickly as possible. There's no better place than here in the US of crypto.
Right. Bill?
All right. Well, the one guy who makes the life-changing money, there's probably a group of people that are just chasing stuff out of frustration. I think one thing that we encourage on the show is that even if you feel you've missed out, the most important emotion to control in crypto is this idea that you've missed it all. You haven't missed it all. It hasn't even started. It's not first inning. It's national anthem, Okay. So this concept of I have to chase the new sexy thing, you're right. If you can do the research and you have the smarts, even if you're broke, if you have the smarts, you can change your life in crypto, right? But what you can also do, and this is what I try to help people with, is don't chase the new thing and then miss a big trade because, you're chasing that new thing because you're frustrated, right? A lot of people, I think, in crypto now are frustrated. They knew, they just came in, or they were out and they got back in and they feel like they missed out. And that's why there's a lot of emotion in the market. That's why a lot of people are chasing stuff that goes straight up and straight down, right? But the thing is, folks, it's national anthem, okay? That is true for Bitcoin, and it's definitely true in the altcoin space.
All right. Thank you, Bill. Okay, so we have one other question here. Actually, super chat from Joaquin Garcia Alonso. I think I'm saying that right. Okay, what are your thoughts about Core? Core is the name. Bill, and could you guys pull that up?
Yeah, let me start out
Okay,
here.
you
So
got it. Okay.
yeah, so Core is a vault. I'm probably going to butcher this a little bit, but it's essentially a vault in which you have an initial liquidity event, and people put the liquidity in there. That liquidity is locked forever, and from that liquidity, when transactions happen, it's deflationary because a portion of the transaction gets burned, cut in half, and then put into the LP. That LP is also locked forever. So it's very it's
oh man, their site is ridiculous.
yeah, so think of it like deflationary farming. So the problem with farming is that you would stake your LP and then tokens would come out and essentially people would dump those tokens. So it was this inflationary faucet that was creating a ton of sell pressure. The solution for this was they created deflationary farming, which is Core. It's similar to a vault with Wi-Fi, et cetera, whatever. Like there's similar elements in there. And it's essentially the liquidity event is everyone puts their liquidity in, it gets locked, they get a percentage of the fees as liquidity providers. You just kiss that money goodbye, but you make it back fairly quickly because there's a lot of fees in the early stage. And then portions of the transactions out there get burned. Let's say like 2% of the transaction gets burned. And then a portion of that gets cut in half, sold on the market, and then put into LP forever. And then you would get fees on it. You don't get fees on it, but the initial LP providers get fees. So it's somewhat fair launch, somewhat deflationary, and money's just getting stored away forever and never coming out. Now, since then, literally everybody and their mother has tried to put out a Core clone. So Core is the OG original. Core is now adopting other cores that are coming into their ecosystem. There's people who are joining up to the Core ecosystem and becoming like incentive providers. So there's a larger ecosystem at play that's been happening, all because of need. We have to think about how Uniswap works and where the downside of it is. Show me how well Uniswap does in the bear market when every single coin's liquidity is getting drained to hell and there's super price impact and you can't sustain against it because no one wants to buy in for big whales. What do all these projects have in common? They're trying to incentivize people to buy in as liquidity providers so that they can lower price impact, increase TVL, which is total value locked, which increases price. There's a direct correlation between TVL and price action on Uniswap right now. So if the paradigm is about how do we provide liquidity, Core does it exceptionally well. But all projects are going to have to deal with this unless they pivot to a centralized exchange. This is where centralized exchanges' role comes into play in the liquidity ecosystem, is that you can't stay on Uniswap forever. It's a great place to have a launch pad. It's a great place to have a presence if you can get that incentivization and liquidity to happen. But eventually you're going to have to take some tokens, give it to a market maker who's going to make money, and he's going to have to trade it up and down for you on a centralized platform, unfortunately, until things change. And I'm sure they will, because we're in the early stages of a massive tech innovation that has to do with a massive migration away from centralized and to decentralized, which is something that we called for years if you look back at our content in 2017 and 2018.
Okay, so some comments from the audience here. It's like the fairest and best DeFi project now, says Metal. I think 10K. I mean, so it seems like Core is basically year-end finance with a token burn?
It's I don't think this is okay. This is against ETH. Yeah, I mean it's think of it like a YFI vault where the liquidity is locked forever, and there's a deflationary burn in which a portion of that burn also goes into the liquidity to lock forever. So it's constantly.
When you say
eating
forever,
itself.
so basically there's no rug pull, essentially.
Yeah, there's no way to
Is
get
what
that
you're
out.
saying?
It's never coming back. Not only that, but you can't get it either. If you were the liquidity provider, you
So
can't
it's
get
locked
it either.
in a liquidity pool,
In a
or
vault.
just in a vault?
Yeah, well, it's in the LP, I think. So when you look at core on Dex tools, the LP is like 27 million. So the LP is going to constantly be going up. Someone created a paradigm, a game theory, in which the LP is constantly going up. So they solved the LP problem.
That's crazy. Okay, so all liquidity providers, once you put in funds, it's basically gone. You can never get it out, but you can earn the fees.
You're earning a ton of fees. Yeah, exactly. Because there's still 5 million daily volume on core today. Now, the core clones that have come out after it, they had to have not a lot of liquidity, but substantial liquidity to be successful. So if you see a core clone pop up, they're going to need at least probably 200K in their liquidity event. But core is the big daddy. Core is the OG first mover who created this. Think of it like deflationary farming, right? You're burning tokens and taking them out of the ecosystem. The initial liquidity is out of the ecosystem. Those guys are getting incentivized. Again, I talk about incentivized every single day. Those people are incentivized to have that liquidity event because they're going to make their money back in like a day or two, and then it's a free roll from there because they were an early founder. So yeah, it's an amazing idea to solve a real problem that's plaguing Uniswap as a whole.
Yeah, I like the game theory behind that. We'll have to look more into that project.
All right, so if I've got the right symbol here, this looks like this is pretty sick. This is a double give up, right? In other words, there's all this support. They broke it here. They actually broke it and retested it. Everyone gave up. Then there was a spike up, right? And then a second give up occurred. So this is a situation where everybody got cleaned out. Everybody. And if the fundamentals make sense, if this price starts recovering again, then, this whole vertical down trade could theoretically unwind itself. So you guys know the fundamentals of the coin, but, from the chart, this is one of these things where you would buy a breakout, right?
Yeah.
There's a difference between FOMO and buying a breakout. That would be a situation where if it continued to go up, you would buy the breakout.
So for something to have $26 million worth of liquidity on Uniswap, that's a really large buy order. That buy order that came in, and that just looks like classic reverse overflow, right? Someone hitting a technical level and just fat fingering in, right? It's not institutional order flow because it's clearly not an institutional player. I'm pretty sure Core's on Binance now. But that's a big signal for me that someone important's coming in when price is going down past that support that you talked about, and it just goes the other way, like on a massive 1 wick candle, and then comes back again. And now people are accumulating again. I don't think that player had any problem with the price coming back down because he probably started bringing in extra firepower at that level. So I absolutely agree. It's something that I'll be putting on the short list because I was thinking about getting in the core, but I kind of said to myself, well, the market cap's at 36 million. How high can it go? I mean, we've seen what some of these DeFi projects can do when big players get behind it. This is a novel idea, and it's been at the top of the hot pairs for like weeks now. So it's not going anywhere. 26 million locked in liquidity, only to go up. Still getting 5 million daily. This is big player time, right? So, I could be looking at 10 plus X in the next bull run. So it's definitely something that I'm going to want to hit up.
All right, so people definitely are enjoying the analysis by Matty, which is good. All right, so tell us what you think about Core. Do you think they've really innovated with having deflationary farming? Tell us what you think down in the comments below. Okay, all right. I think that's it in terms of questions in the comments. Let's go back to the AMA. Okay, so people are asking for us to take a look at EWT. This has also been a pretty popular project with our community. I know Chico Crypto has been pumping this a lot. All right, so let's have Bill pull that up.
Okay.
Because you ready? Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Keep going. I'm still getting there.
Okay, yeah. So EWT was one of those projects that had lots of interest, as I mentioned before, with Chico Crypto, but also there was lots of rumors, speculation that they were doing some stuff with Elon Musk and all kinds of things. But they do have big names backing it, and we do have the official review of this project up on Token Metrics as well. So this project is called Energy Web Token. Let me pull it up here as Bill is pulling up the TA. So technology is decent. We're still doing the fundamental analysis, but technology is decent. This is definitely not a bad project or a scam. It's definitely legit. I think that's why there's probably lots of interest with the community around that. Let me pull up their site here. Just give me a few seconds. EWT.
$200 million market cap at the moment.
Yeah. Okay. So here we are. Energy Web Token. Energy Web is accelerating low carbon, customer centric electricity system. This reminds me of Power Ledger, but I think what people liked about this project is they're working with Vodafone and I believe Shell as well and Toto Exelon. So definitely have major partnerships, but I mean, I still would not be in this project long term, but I think it does make for a decent trade, depending on the TA.
Yeah,
Okay.
I thought the same thing again with Power Ledger. Are they their own blockchain? Because it doesn't look like they have an ETH Explorer.
Power Ledger or EWT?
EWT.
Um,
They have their own Explorer called Explorer.EnergyWeb
yeah.
with
I think
transactions on it. It looks like its own blockchain.
Yeah, because let me just pull it up here. So they have a native token, Energy Web Chain.
Yeah.
It's a proof of authority Ethereum virtual machine. But I thought they were also doing something with Polkadot. Maybe people in the comments can chime in here. Because I thought they were doing some kind of parachain. But maybe that was just rumor. Yeah,
Right.
so
just quick on the
found
chart. This is another one of these 76% retracement plays, right? This looks just like DeFi futures, except it's a 4-hour chart, right? It has an initial run up and then it does this consolidation that just discourages everybody. You know, it's not that I like people to be discouraged, but you know, frequently when a market's going to go up, it's after people give up, right? So if there's a catalyst here or somebody gets on YouTube and says they like this, you know, if it recovers this support point at like 6.25, okay, it's another one of these things where you buy the breakout. It's better to buy it a little higher than it is right this second, but you know, all these coins are all doing the same thing. They're either hitting a 61.8, like Matty said, or they're hitting a 76% retracement and then bouncing.
Right. Which is pretty crazy too, because that 786 to the 618 zone, that's supposed to be 2-to-1 to the trend, but it's not. It's working the exact opposite. So it's so crazy. Like normally, once you shoot past the 618, that box is supposed to be set up for a 2-to-1 risk to reward. So that essentially meaning like you have a 2-to-1 chance of continuing the breakdown or up, right? But in this case, it's like bizarre because you're seeing kind of a swing failure pattern going into a support breakback.
Right. What I've seen, I don't know, historically, you know, and for me, historically is a long time. Unfortunately, when you see the 76% retracements, when you see them either hold or they break down and come back, that means a bigger uptrend can happen. Now, I don't know if in this necessarily, but you know, you can see that all through DeFi, right? That's why everyone's like, okay, well, what could happen in the election? Everything could crash. Well, like I said, in crypto, everything already has crashed, right? Everyone already is frustrated.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
even when Bitcoin went from originally like 13K down to like 11 or like 10.5, the DeFi market was barely phased as well, which I think is really interesting. There was not a heavy correlation, even with Bitcoin, Ethereum, and some of the blue chips going up right now. Same thing, DeFi not correlated. So, and I think that comes from the fact that you don't have as much arbitrage going on. You don't have as many bots steering the direction. You don't have as many centralized actors impacting price. So, it's kind of a big separation between the retail and the institutional, a larger separation than what you had before, because before those retail players were forced to go onto your exchange. Now centralized entities are pushing certain retail away, and a lot of them are flooding into Uniswap, which, like, don't get me wrong, there's still arbitraging going on, but if you don't have a centralized counterpart, that's not really going to be that impactful to you. You're going to be more decoupled from what's happening in the market if there's enough FOMO going on. So
Yeah. Now, so I did find it. So they are also building a parachain and integrating into Polkadot as well. So I think kind of all that hype
it's
has
bullish.
helped out a lot.
Anything real with Polkadot associated with it? I mean, it's at a $200 million cap, so I have to ask myself where it's heading. But yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, just looking at this, they plan to integrate into Polkadot, but I'm not seeing anything tangible at the moment. But maybe somebody else could help us find that. All right, tell us what you think down below. Okay, so I think time for us to maybe wrap things up. Maybe we can do one last question. Let's see which one we should answer. Okay, let me try to find the most interesting one since we have limited time here. Okay, so here's one. This is for Oh Hey Matty. How do I get the Oh Hey Matty NFT?
I'm pretty sure this is coming. So there's this guy named Clark who messaged me today and said, "Hey bro, do you mind if I make an NFT of you?" I said go for it. And he just posted it up on Rarible. You can find the link
Really?
in
All right. Yeah, let me try that.
hold on, I'll send you the link to the chat. I think he's gonna airdrop me one just for shits and giggles. I mean, I'm a big NFT supporter. I actually just got my Don't Buy Rope hoodie in the mail, which, by the way, is fat people approved. Because some people make hoodies, they're not great for people who are overweight. This one was pretty fire. Yeah, but it looks like he's selling 20 Oh Hey Matty NFTs. So if you want to go over and if you want to go over and pop that out for $10, go support local artists. I mean, he just took my
Let's
logo
go pump it.
and put a little, go pump my NFT, bro. But,
yeah, because actually, I know some company also made an NFT on me without my permission, and I wasn't too pleased. But I just want, you can't really prevent anybody from creating NFTs with.
Look at what he said. He said, "Hold this card in your wallet for a plus 99 Renko ability."
Yeah, I'm actually trying to get involved in this. I'm trying to leverage the person who did my Ethereum Buddha background to, I basically just told her to start drawing.
Yeah, I mean, so Matty, could you maybe kind of delve deeper into why you're bullish on NFTs?
Yeah, I mean, in a space where, in a larger ecosystem where we're seeing content creators buy $350,000 first edition Pokemon boxes right now, off the back of Gary V, really pushing that. It just really highlights how long-term value can be presented. People see value in different things. I'm sure when I was growing up, people thinking that I played Magic the Gathering was kind of nerdish and that I was stupid, but there's a lot of Magic the Gathering cards that are worth money. I went to a baseball expo with my grandfather when I was a young kid. I picked up a 1994 Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card that's worth money. I have a Greg Maddux rookie card that's worth a few $100s in my closet. So the thing is that where does that value come from is really the question. And when I see NFTs, I see the good and the bad. So let's talk about the good. You have a way of presenting art that is very liquid in terms of transfer and requires minimal to no upkeep. So imagine if someone valued the Mona Lisa and then I didn't have to restore it over the next 200 to 300 years. That's very powerful. Or let's say I could put the Mona Lisa up on auction and then people around the world could bid on it without having to show up in person or transfer large funds in cash. That's very valuable. The downside is that anyone can create art, which is art in itself. It's not really a downside, but it seems like it's super saturated in the sense that where am I going to find the value? And I think what happens over time is that artists start getting engaged with NFTs. We're already seeing it. My editor, who's helping me set up things going on with the studio for a potential comeback to the Hey Matty channel, a friend of his is doing amazing artwork, focusing on memery, and that's what they're focusing on. They're focusing on high trends in crypto, but I see a larger vertical where people who value art on the blockchain for that transferability and low maintenance costs, even maybe in the future when we have holograms or whatever, you can go to an art institute, someone who owns one of these 20 copies of Van Gogh or whatever can literally pull it up on a hologram to show it, but they own the NFT and they don't have to deal with like millions of dollars of restoring things, etc. So I think it's just a niche space that could be revolutionizing something bigger. And I want to be a part of that because I like to get behind, organic, decentralized movements. And this one seems to excite me. But I think people misconstrue, because there was a big argument that happened in my chat today, not to get too long on this, but people misconstrue Bitcoin taking over M1 currency supply and NFTs. Like, we can support decentralization, immutability, sound money, while still supporting smaller areas of crypto that are making breakthroughs in relevant areas to certain people in the world.
Yeah, I mean, so I'm also very bullish on NFTs, but I think it's still early. But I do think it's probably the easiest use case to go fully mainstream in crypto, right? So I still don't see why people haven't really tokenized baseball cards and made that blow up as NFTs, right? Because I think that's, to me, the easiest way. I mean, I haven't delved or bought any NFT yet. As mentioned before on some past shows, I've been looking into NBA Top Shot. So if I do get into NFTs, that's probably going to be it, because I like basketball. And if I can make money on it.
Get Tops involved, get Tops, get these manufacturers involved. It's very easy.
Yeah. So, but I mean, with that being said, so what do you think about people investing into platforms like Flow, for example, right? The founders of CryptoKitties. They basically invest into a blockchain designed for games, NFTs, and get exposure to everything that happens. Do you think that thesis could work out if people who maybe are still skeptical on NFTs, but maybe they invest into a platform that those NFTs? Or do you think the value capture would happen directly on NFTs themselves?
Yeah, so right now, the biggest value for NFTs is brand recognition. So if you look at things like, some people just respect the art, but Blue Kirby had, this is a controversial name in the space, and I can go into detail if it needs.
That's the Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi evangelist. Yeah, Wi-Fi evangelist is the best term. He got brought on as a decentralized marketer, but he was essentially like he was a Wi-Fi stan, right? A stan is someone who just like goes out of their way to evangelize things. He was a Wi-Fi stan on Twitter for a long time. After everything, they brought him on, then fired him after the Eminence thing. But he went on to create Off Blue, which was going to be essentially an art broker house in real life, in which they would broker these NFTs in a professional manner. Because he was associated with the project, everyone wanted to own the Off Blue NFTs because they would get airdrop governance holders. But because of the eminence, because of the high profile, and because OpenSeas and Rarible were essentially like, look, you're breaking our TOS by having a governance airdrop against this, which I think goes against what that side of the space stands for. Blue Kirby was forced to leave the project, and now Off Blue, though it's rebranding and continuing with its vision, may not have as much association. So to your point, about what's going on with CryptoKitties, the main driver for any sort of price action on NFTs right now strictly comes from brand and marketing positioning. And CryptoKitties is one of the most notable NFTs ever to exist. It almost broke the Ethereum network in 2017 for 2018 for the OGs that remember it. So I see no reason why it shouldn't. But really, the main vertical right now for NFTs seems to be anon decentralized communities who are incentivizing people to provide liquidity for governance tokens in order to mine NFTs that are coming out. But really, those NFTs I see having zero value because they lack that brand recognition, they lack that marketing, and really it just comes down to people trying to make money. They're not seeing the value in the actual NFT. That's not to say that people who are involved in that don't value NFTs or the NFTs that they're staking into. The really why I promote Rope, even though it's now down a bunch and not doing well, though it could come back in the next run. Why I promote Rope is because "Don't Buy Rope" is a very catchy slogan, and they've brought in a lot of artists that are kind of fueling that anon, and like that's the NFT space right now. It's all anon. It's all like people who are building, and I love that shit, right? I love people who build. That goes a long way. So the fact that they're trying to make partnerships with other people and all this stuff, it's really organic. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for in terms of the investment side. As the space progresses, it's anyone who's providing value that has brand marketing recognition. That's the end stop.
Yeah, marketing always wins. Bill, any comments you want to add?
Certainly. So I was a big comic book guy in college. That was the heyday of the Batman movies. And I saw a tweet from Wolf of Wall Street with an animated little Batman cartoon. And he said, "Keep making fun of this NFT space. Watch." And I completely changed my mind about it because when I was introduced to it, it was like, yeah, this is another thing we can do DeFi on and borrow against it. And I was like, no. All right. But then I looked at it and I said, wait a minute. Value is a perception. If COVID disconnects a lot of people from society, whether it's the disease or the financial problems or problem with the government, people are going to want to create new things that have value to them and exchange them and trade them and buy them and sell them and have them moon and go to zero. It's the creation of a whole new type of, it's not a security, but it's just a way to hold and transfer value, right? And when you think about something that Elon Musk just said that everyone made fun of, he says AI is going to change the whole planet and there really isn't going to be much of a point in jobs. Kind of a shocking thing to say. But he said there's going to be a future in art. And of course, everyone was like, I can't believe he just said that. But I said, I can't believe he just said that because that's what's in this book by Kai-Fu Lee about what's going to happen when AI really takes over. We're almost there with COVID, right? Very high unemployment rate. Then AI comes in. His book was AI comes in. Then you have an employment problem. Okay. So if you've got this society where people get disconnected, right? Artists can actually rise up like philosophers and poets and become prominent people because you can go from something to nothing with art. And with comic books, if we're talking about serious business, you can go to a comic book store once upon a time, there'd be 500,000 books there, but not all of them were going to have value a year from now. So the fact that they want to crypto that, I'm all about it.
Yeah, so I think we have some breaking news, guys. So John in the comments says, I just bought an NFT on Roundtable. I bought the Hey Matty card. Oh, wow.
Yeah, someone bought it. It went down to 19 out of 20 now.
Actually, hold on. Let me pull that up here.
Price is already mooning. I get no profit of this, by the way. This is just a random artist who thought it would be cool. Oh, man.
Yeah, so we actually, that's the first NFT purchase in Token Metrics history. Yeah, so is there history?
Yeah, it says 19 of 20. So
19 of 20.
Minutes, so 9 minutes ago, CoinSites bought
19 left. All right, yeah. There we go. Awesome.
What is rope good for? Says Skylar in the chats. Rope is used to, well, it's a governance token for Snapshot, but it's also used to stake into LP to get a token called Hope, and then Hope is used to buy their NFTs. So that's kind of the short version of it.
All right. So tell us what you think about NFTs down in the comments below. Okay. So just one last special, actually mention or announcement here. So first of all, congrats to Bill on our team. Bill was recently featured in Bloomberg.
Wow.
So definitely a big achievement. I want to pull up the article here.
Thank you.
Well, actually, I'm sorry, it was quoted in Bloomberg, right? This was Bitcoin's rally gets added boost from wrapped crypto tokens. Where is it? I think yeah, right here, right? So Bill, want to kind of share what you told Bloomberg?
Sure. So, you know, reporters, like all people, okay, you know, when someone tells them to do something, they better do it because they want to hold on to their job. And this was a really unique opportunity to help a reporter who was sort of struggling with this idea of, you know, DeFi in general and wrapped tokens. And I told her a story that, you know, wrapped Bitcoin was essentially a way of letting Bitcoin travel on two highways, right? The Bitcoin blockchain and the Ethereum blockchain. And this idea that you'll have a polka dot highway someday is really exciting. And these wrapped coins, as I explained, I mean, I don't need to explain this to the choir, but it was nice to have an experience to help somebody not only do their job, but teach them about how this decentralized finance is going to change everything.
Yeah. Synthetic assets for wrap BTC. Some of us believe that that's the reason why Bitcoin's price is so bullish, because you're actually getting trading exposure on Bitcoin through the synthetics market that translate into the spot.
Right.
Yeah.
It's Bitcoin is collateral now, like a treasury bond.
Yeah.
That's why it's price. It's like an equity when it goes up. It's collateral.
Like I would say pretty much all of DeFi mooned because of bringing Bitcoin onto Ethereum's blockchain. And I mean, honestly, I don't understand why people would hold Bitcoin if you can hold wrapped Bitcoin and yield from it.
Yeah, way more liquid too.
Yeah, because here wrapped Bitcoin is the third biggest asset on in DeFi currently. That's pretty big, over 1.6 billion in assets locked up.
Here's a funny joke, right? If you trade Bitcoin, it may take about 30 minutes to an hour for you to move it around, but you can buy wrapped Bitcoin and move it around in less than 3 minutes. Just think of how powerful that is.
Game changer. All right. So with that being said, I think it's time for us to wrap up the show. Hey Matty, where can people learn more about you?
Yeah, obviously I have my YouTube channel. I'm mostly active on Telegram. It's since rebooting post hack, we've created a chat room. It's called DeFi Crypto. You can either look for it there. It's let me just look /DeFi_crypto_chat. Or you can go to my Hey Matty announcements channel, which is in all my video links, and you can find it that way. I'm also part of the TDeFi Accelerator, so you can always find me over there on their website, and I'm on Twitter too. But mainly Telegram is where we're having most of our conversations. You know, real conversations, not a bunch of bots. So yeah, cool stuff.
Awesome. Yes, thank you for being here on the show. Bill, any last words to our crypto family?
Yes. Matty was right. Complaining really hurts your ability to move forward, right? And we're probably entering into a 2-month period where there'll be plenty of reason to complain. Study a chart, stay safe, take care of yourself. Crypto forever.
Whatever. Is that like that's a Marky Mark quote?
Nice. Yeah. Nice slogan there. Crypto forever 2020. Yeah, I mean, so I'd like to say thank you everyone for being here. Definitely appreciate it. Thank you to all our customers. We're definitely planning to launch the new Quant grade, which has been very, very well received just from the people reaching out to us, asking us when it's launching. But just from the internal testing we've been doing internally, we think this is going to be a game changer, because now we can find all those shiny, sexy new DeFi tokens everyone is asking us to review without even having to review them, right? Because everything will be based purely on quantitative metrics, meaning that looking at the risk to return ratio of those investments, and we can now find those hidden gems, right? So that means we'll take token metrics from having about 300 coins to now being able to just automatically ingest coins from CoinMarketCap, CoinGecko. So, for example, importing anywhere between 3,000 to 6,000 coins in just one import, grading all of them, and giving you the best investments or trades. And we think that's going to take tokenmetrics to the next level. So thank you to everyone who's been here with us since the beginning. Actually, this month is also the tokenmetrics 1-year anniversary, right? So we launched tokenmetrics on Black Friday, 29th. This was Friday 29th last year. So I think we definitely should do one big live stream, right? So thank you to everybody. With that being said, as we like to say, the moon is not the limit, to the moon and beyond. Thank you, Crypto family.
Thank you.